Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 61 The Holy Tree Enters the Body. Xiao Chen looked at her quietly, without speaking. Yan Qingcheng shot two divine lights from his eyes, and an extremely powerful coercion rushed quickly. This was the power of the spirit, and it collided with Xiao Chen's powerful spiritual consciousness. This was a confrontation of spiritual consciousness, a duel of spiritual power. The few trees between the two of them quickly crumbled and melted like ice and snow meeting the sun. Boom! The spiritual power of the two receded like a tide, and Xiao Chen's face was a little pale. After all, he had just experienced a big battle, and he was not at his peak when he came to fight for the power of the spiritual sense. Yan Qingcheng said, "Since Long Island has formulated various rules, we will act in accordance with the rules. Starting tomorrow, we will play a legal game. If you can survive the 10-day continuous pursuit of the Undead Alliance, I will not pursue the previous grievances." Xiao Chen knew that she must have learned about Wang Zifeng and Lu Yu being killed by him. Although the relationship between their senior brothers and sisters is fierce, they are all descendants of the immortal line after all. The killing of senior brothers and sisters involves the issue of the dignity of the sect. After all, Yan Qingcheng disappeared into the forest gracefully. Hunting game, go to hell. Xiao Chen rushed towards his hermitage like flying. Back in Linggu where he lived, the first thing he did was to borrow the precious tree from KK, and the little guy threw it to him nonchalantly. Xiao Chen let the treasure tree take root in a woodland. He sat cross-legged in front of the treasure tree and began to perform the Zan Gong, preparing to absorb the aura of the treasure tree and restore his vitality as soon as possible. After an unknown amount of time, he opened his eyes and was surprised to find that the treasure tree was gone. Vaguely, he felt something was wrong in his chest, and looking inside, Xiao Chen was taken aback. The sacred seedling entered his body inexplicably. The light is shining brightly in his body, without any conflict with the organs in his body. Shangqiu point on the left foot, Shangqiu point on the right foot, Zongding point on the chest, Zhangjing point on the left shoulder. The four deified points and the small tree seem to be connected by energy light paths. There seems to be a delicate balance between them, constantly absorbing the vitality of heaven and earth into the body. Xiao Chen's vitality has recovered, but right now he feels terrified. After all, a seedling has entered his body. However, when he was startled, the Zan Gong stopped operating, and the sacred seedlings actually emerged from the body and took root on the ground. Miraculous! Xiao Chen was shocked. This night, he tried repeatedly, but failed to introduce the treasure tree into his body again. After several battles, it was time to calm down and practice. Xiao Chen decided to go deep into Dragon Island to practice. Maybe he could catch some opportunities, such as obtaining dragon eggs. He directly ignored what Yan Qingcheng said, and started on the road with the three skeletons the next morning, and KK followed lazily. The beautiful Yan Qingcheng, whose complexion was not very good, was actually let go. Xiao Chen didn't take her words seriously at all, and had disappeared for 3 days. Yan Qingcheng stood in front of the waterfall, smiled faintly, and then recruited a member of the alliance, gave him some instructions, and then she also left the waterfall herself, and began to make some arrangements. On this day, many alliances have learned that Xiao Chen agreed to conduct a death pursuit interaction with the Undead Alliance for a period of 1 month. Everything was operated by Yan Qingcheng, and someone testified that it was true. It can be seen that Yan Qingcheng's activity energy, she forged all false appearances, and completely legalized this hunt. At this moment, Xiao Chen has already entered the depths of Dragon Island, but he has not yet reached the central area. Dragon Island is very vast. Along the way, he saw many exotic birds and wild beasts. Among the fierce dragons alone, he found more than 20 of them, and they were all of different races. If you encounter danger many times, there will be more other terrifying beasts. At this time, he didn't know that Yan Qingcheng had already led his men to chase him down. In the early morning of the fourth day, the mist lingered in the forest, as if covering the lush forest with a light veil. With the rising of the morning glow, the mist-like thin smoke is like a multicolored fairy glow, which is irradiated with bursts of splendor. However, this beautiful scenery didn't last long, and the lightly shimmering mist gradually faded away. A new day begins. In the morning glow, the birds chirp in the forest, and the fresh fragrance of flowers and plants permeates the forest. Looking at it in a daze, it is very peaceful, but Xiao Chen knows that there are murderous intentions hidden in the endless mountains and forests, and many unknown beasts may roar out at any time. After enjoying breakfast, Xiao Chen went on the road again, heading towards the center of the island. At noon, Xiao Chen found a river in the forest and followed the water to the depths of the island. After traveling for about 10 miles, there are more and more ancient trees on both sides of the river, which can only be embraced by 7 or 8 people, and the ancient trees become older as they go in. After traveling for a few miles, the river changed direction. Xiao Chen continued to move forward. The ancient trees towered to the sky, and each ancient tree needed more than a dozen people to embrace it. Compared to those ancient trees in Shuren Valley, it seemed to be even worse. This is a luxuriant green ocean. Xiao Chen estimated that it is already close to the central area of Dragon Island. Kiki looked at the surrounding environment curiously, her bright eyes blinking constantly. The 3 skeletons also seemed to sense something, and after entering this area, they became very disturbed. Xiao Chen has already noticed that this forest area is very abnormal. Although there are towering ancient trees and an endless forest sea, there are no birds or beasts. It is silent, deathly quiet, and there is not even a breath of wind. In the dead and silent ancient forest, each ancient tree is thousands of years old. After traveling for about 10 miles, Xiao Chen felt that he was about to walk out. Sure enough, after traveling less than a mile, they walked out of the forest. After seeing the scene in front of him, Xiao Chen was immediately stunned. Ahead was a sea of white bones, skeletons with missing arms and legs, dead bones of giant birds more than 10 meters long, keels 50 to 60 meters long, and the snow-white bones stretched as far as the eye could see. This seems to be a well-preserved ancient battlefield. In the depths of this sea of bones, a huge stone monument stands majestically, surrounded by ribbon-shaped black clouds. Surprisingly, this is not the only thing. On the west side of the vast sea of bones, there are endless snow-capped mountains, where snowflakes are flying and the mist is hazy. It is hard to believe that there are snow-capped mountains on this tropical island. Chapter 62 Bone Sea God Monument. Xiao Chen singled out the Vengeance Alliance and won the final victory, becoming the hottest celebrity on the island. But now it is rumored that he and the Immortal Alliance led by Yan Qingcheng will conduct a life-death interaction game, which has attracted the attention of many alliances, and many cultivators are looking forward to the next death pursuit. Many alliances have begun to march on the island. Now that they have been trapped in Long Island, everyone gradually calmed down and began to plan for the future, preparing to find a suitable place for cultivation on Long Island. But about all this, Xiao Chen didn't know at all. At this moment he had already entered the central area of Long Island, so if he didn't care, he let Yan Qingcheng's pigeons go, and let her sing a one-man show. The vast white sea of bones made him stunned. Human skeletons, giant bird bones, beast bones, dragon bones, were endless like snow. Endless white skeletons covered the earth. A fierce evil spirit pervades this sea of bones, causing people to tremble from the soul. Everything in front of them is so incredible and deeply frightening. Even though it is noon at this moment, it is extremely cold in this sea of bones. The sunlight falling down is pale, there is no warmth at all, there is no sound in the bone field, it is dead silent. This is a real sea of dead bones. The towering ancient trees behind him, although extremely luxuriant, are equally dead silent, without a single wind, making them look extremely strange. Coupled with the misty snow-capped mountains in the distance, this area is indescribably terrifying. Click, click. King Qin Guang, King Yama, and King Samsara seemed to be very disturbed. They kept moving the joints of their bodies, the light of the soul in the skull was constantly flickering, and the brilliant light emitted by the lotus imprint on the forehead was constantly beating like fireworks. Kiki curled up into a ball of snow-white pompon, lying on top of the King of Reincarnation, blinking a pair of bright eyes, looking curiously at this world of bones, and finally stretched out a small animal claw, pointing to the huge stone monument standing in the depths of the sea of bones, and made a babbling sound in her mouth. Of course Xiao Chen had already noticed the terrifying stone tablet. The huge stone tablet made him tremble from the soul, as if there was an evil force affecting his mind. Let's go and have a look. Xiao Chen made this decision. Anyway, he has already entered this sea of bones, there is nothing to be afraid of, so he must find out. Endless skeletons covered the ground, and there was a constant, creaking, sound when stepping on it, which sounded a bit creepy. I don't know how many years have passed, many bones have weathered and shattered, and a thick layer of snow-white bone powder is deposited on the ground, making the endless wreckage even more terrifying. Every inch of the land is white, without any vegetation to speak of. Bursts of evil spirit permeated the bone ground, and the deeper it went, the heavier the evil spirit became. Finally, a hazy black mist appeared in the bone ground, making this sea of dead bones extremely eerie. After advancing for several miles, he gradually came to the vicinity of the huge stone tablet. Here Xiao Chen stopped, not because of fear, but because after arriving here, the black mist seemed to turn into a tangible substance, forming energy vortices in the bones. Xiao Chen threw a piece of bones forward, and was torn to pieces in an instant. There is still a mile away from the ancient stone tablet, and the strange energy flow blocked their progress. The black clouds, like ghosts, surged in front of them, and occasionally they would make a shrill whistling sound, like the howling of an evil spirit. The soul lights of King Qinguang, King Yama, and King Samsara all flickered on and off, and it could be seen that they seemed deeply disturbed. Roar! There was a scream that made the scalp tingle, and a ferocious skeleton more than 5 meters high struggled in the black mist, and then collapsed in an instant. Ah! A woman with disheveled hair, whose upper body is 7 or 8 meters long and covered in blue scales, is struggling and crying, and her lower body is a huge snake tail that is more than 10 meters long. Although her appearance was good and extremely beautiful, she looked a bit ferocious at the moment. With her screaming, all the blue scales on her body opened, seeping out scarlet blood, and then the whole body exploded, leaving a large cloud of blood in the air. Then, a 50-meter-long purple Tyrannosaurus roared sky-shatteringly, writhed in the turbulent black mist, and spewed out bursts of terrifying light, almost tearing apart the void. Everything is an illusion. Xiao Chen closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, those terrifying pictures really disappeared. In the tumbling black mist, there is obviously an evil force. Maybe it's the reappearance of history. Xiao Chen didn't dare to rush forward. After all, the terrifying black vortex was real, it could crush bones, and his body might not be able to bear it. This island is called Dragon Island. In the ancient prehistoric era, the goddess monument from heaven sealed it forever. All dragons who can fight against the gods lost their mana forever and were imprisoned on this deserted island. Yi Jun's words echoed in Xiao Chen's heart. He knew that the 100-meter-tall ancient monument in front of him should be the terrifying divine monument that sealed off Longdao. With a distance of more than a mile, it is impossible to see the true face of the ancient monument at all. There are bands of magic clouds lingering around, and only a tall monument can be seen. This made Xiao Chen feel very sorry. Ever since he learned that Long Island was sealed off by a divine tablet, he had always had a bold association in his mind. The goddess monument from heaven, the Yellow River in Yongzhen. And here, the goddess monument from heaven, Dragon Island in Yongzheng. Will there be any connection? Could it be that the two ancient monuments have the same origin? Xiao Chen had an urgent desire in his heart. He wanted to observe the true face of the ancient monument, and see if there was also an ancient qi refining map engraved on the back of it. It's just that the black mist cut off all of this, and he couldn't walk through it. In this area where the black mist surged, the 3 skeletons seemed to have been greatly affected. They stood motionless in place, and KK seemed very interested in this place, climbing to a huge skeleton with a height of more than 10 meters, watching the ancient stone tablet in front of it. Xiao Chen stood there for a long time, then moved his feet and began to observe around here. He found that within the area with a radius of 1 mile centered on the ancient monument, there was a forbidden zone of life, which could not be penetrated at all. A giant bone several meters long, thrown into it 10 meters away, will melt like snowflakes under the bright sun. The destructive power makes people stop at nothing. When Xiao Chen turned to the west side of the huge ancient monument, the hairs all over his body suddenly stood up, and he felt danger. In an instant, he suddenly found a fossil-like figure standing in the black mist of the restricted life zone, very close to him, definitely not an illusion. Chapter 63 Space Spiritualist. A figure like a stone statue. A blue light swept across from the black mist. Xiao Chen flew upside down in an instant, dodging the dangerous blow. The muscles of his whole body were tense, the fingertips of his fingers burst out, and the palms of his hands were almost transparent against the brilliant light. He was ready to fight. The black mist surged, and the fossil-like figure slowly turned its body around. The seemingly lifeless body now gradually revealed life waves. This is a young man in his 20s, tall, he seems to rarely see the sun, his face is a little pale, and he has a sick feeling. "Who are you?" Xiao Chen asked. "Who are you?" The sick young man asked back. Xiao Chen calmed down. This tall, somewhat sickly young man must be a human being. He was probably practicing just now. The special cultivation method slowed down his life fluctuations, making it seem as if he had cut off his vitality. Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen reported his name, then looked at the sick young man in front of him and said, "Why are you attacking me?" Xiao Chen could tell from the other party's clothes that he should be a strong young man who was also trapped in Long Island. However, he came to the center of the island before him, and the other party seemed to choose to practice here to improve his cultivation. Snort. The sick young man snorted coldly, and floated out of the black mist lightly like a ghost, and a blue light suddenly appeared around his body. In an instant, Xiao Chen felt like the world was spinning, as if time and space were in chaos. However, Xiao Chen had already made the preparations for the battle, and his mind was not in a state of confusion, like a condor leaping over the abyss. Although he was in a dangerous situation, his body quickly regained his balance. The scene in front of him has changed drastically. Xiao Chen found that he has entered an unknown space, surrounded by a hazy blue light, like a chaotic world. This is a strange space of more than 100 square meters, without blue sky and white clouds, without back soil and land, surrounded by hazy light, and the same is true under the feet, with blue light shining. The sick young man stood in front of him, looking at Xiao Chen calmly. This is by no means an illusion, it is a real space. Xiao Chen was very surprised. The moment he was trapped here, he raised his right hand high, and the whole arm was radiant. The flesh and blood seemed to be transparent, and the blood vessels and bones inside were clearly visible. It seemed as if the powerful power was running in the arm, and then the divine light flashed, and the arm slashed down, and the dazzling light violently slashed towards the side of the enclosed space. The terrifying blow hit a blue light wall in this closed space in an instant, causing the space to shake violently. Cracks appeared in the light wall, but they all healed up immediately. Both Xiao Chen and the sick young man nearly fell to the ground. Very strong, the sick young man said, "You are a master among the younger generation. Who the hell are you? Why do you trap me?" Xiao Chen has already tried. This closed space seems to be difficult to open. He is no longer eager to attack the sick young man, he wants to ask first. Space Spirit Master Lu Mu. After the sick young man announced his name, he continued. Recently, new faces have appeared one after another near the sacred monument, making it difficult for people to cultivate with peace of mind. Some people shouldn't be here. Xiao Chen learned from his words that there are other people who have entered the depths of Dragon Island, and it seems that some people often haunt this place. It can be seen that Lu Mu didn't know Xiao Chen's name before this. Obviously he entered the depths of Dragon Island very early, and didn't know about the series of events happening outside the island. "I don't want to fight with anyone casually," Xiao Chen said indifferently. "I'm afraid you can't help it. If you defeat me, you can go out, or I will personally send you out of the Sea of Bones." Lu Mu is very calm. Although he looks sick, he seems to have unquestionable strength. However, it could be seen that he did not have any killing intent. It seemed that he simply did not want too many people to come here and disturb his cultivation. "Hey, well, let me try, how strong you are." Xiao Chen didn't have too many words, some things were destined to be resolved only through actions. Brush. With a flash of light, Lu Mu too emitted a blue light, and then the closed space was full of light. Xiao Chen felt as if he was imprisoned. The hazy light enveloped him like a tide, making him unable to move. The huge squeezing force made him feel suffocated. Lingxi is really scary. Special ability is innate. Obviously Lu Mu's natural ability is to control the space. Xiao Chen thinks that this is definitely a terrifying opponent. If others knew that there was a space spirit warrior here, they would be extremely shocked, because this kind of person is the most terrifying. This kind of people are generally the kings among cultivators of the same generation, and they are born with incomparable and powerful advantages. If they control a space and use it properly, they can wait to control the life and death of their opponents. Everyone lives in space. If the enemy is trapped in the space he controls, the space spirit is already in an invincible position. Space spirits are as rare as phoenix feathers. It is said that when they reach a certain level of cultivation, the range of space they control will continue to expand, from a few meters to hundreds of meters. After reaching a certain level, they can directly pass through the gods. The space under Lu Mu's control is only over 100 square meters, and it is a closed space. Although the scope of the space is limited, he has absolute dominance in this space. Xiao Chen's body was imprisoned by the power of space. Even though his body was tyrannical, the bones all over his body suppressed by the terrible force, creaked, at this moment, and the power of space was tearing his body violently. "Give up resistance, and I will send you away from the Sea of Bones." Lu Mu said calmly. Huh, Xiao Chen snorted coldly, the divine flames were dancing all over his body, his whole body was like a dazzling sun, his tall and straight body emitted endless divine light. Although it was still a short time to enter this space, Xiao Chen felt that this was his most difficult battle, and he tried his best to resist the tearing of the space force. The body seemed to be deified, shining with an extremely dazzling light, and the profound arts were operated to the limit, and the divine light emitted was like a burning holy fire. Lu Mu's complexion changed, his already sick complexion turned even paler, and sweat appeared on his forehead. Controlling this space and trapping a master like Xiao Chen required a lot of his spiritual power, and he felt extremely strenuous at this moment. At this moment, Xiao Chen started to move with difficulty. He staggered and walked towards Lu Mu step by step, as if he was carrying a heavy mountain. Every time he took a step, the space shook violently. At the same time, Xiao Chen was also shaking, his bones made a creaking sound, and his body might collapse at any time. Chapter 64 Big Dipper Conferred God. Lu Mu's face was pale, his long hair was wet with sweat, strands of hair stuck together, he floated up with difficulty and hid in another direction of this space. Xiao Chen was in extreme pain at the moment, and his body really seemed to be about to collapse, but in the space dominated by Lu Mu, he couldn't think of a way out of the predicament for the time being. He raised his right hand with great difficulty, the terrifying power of space made his right hand tremble, his veins were throbbing violently, he lifted it up with all his strength, and shot a beam of bright sword energy at Lu Mu, trying to pierce it. At this moment Lu Mu had already lost his composure, his whole body was soaked in sweat, and the sweat turned into a steaming mist that had already drowned him. Seeing the bright sword energy coming, he struggled to cast a piece of blue light in the air. With a clang, the impacting divine light disappeared, and the blue light also shattered in the air. The power from space blocked the sharp blow. Although the time since the beginning of seeing the present is still very short, for the two of them, it seems that 100 years have passed, and they both feel like they have collapsed. Lu Mu felt that he was about to collapse. He never thought that he would meet such a powerful enemy, and the technique of space shattering could not help him. Finally, he gritted his teeth and drew complicated and unpredictable trajectories with his hands. Blue divine light burst out, condensing into bright rays like heavenly knives, and swirled towards Xiao Chen. This is a rain of swords formed by spiritual power in space. If the spiritual power is strong enough, it can completely smash the void. Although Lu Mu doesn't have the ability to shatter the void yet, such a powerful space blade light is enough to disdain the masters of the same level. At this moment, Xiao Chen really felt that death was approaching, the sickly Lu Mu was really too powerful, he was the most terrifying opponent he had ever encountered. Xiao Chen never thought of giving up, even at the last moment before death, he would try his best to fight, this is his character. The arm is almost transparent, and one can fully see the blood flowing, the arm bone trembling, and the vitality flowing, and it may collapse at any time. But at this moment, Xiao Chen had no choice, and raised the power of the fifth layer of transformation to the limit, and his hands broke through the confinement of space power. Even though his body might be broken, Xiao Chen still waved his arms without hesitation, shooting mysterious seals one after another. Brilliant starlight floated in this space, and the 7 brightest stars appeared in front of Xiao Chen. The Big Dipper spun rapidly to protect him, forming a splendid light curtain. The whole space is dazzling. Xiao Chen was quite excited. He named this Big Dipper light curtain function, and it was difficult to successfully play it on weekdays. Under such a life and death situation, his potential was fully stimulated, and he successfully played this type of Big Dipper conferred God. The spatial sword light condensed by spiritual power claims to destroy all obstacles after reaching a certain level, and even gods cannot stop it after reaching the highest level. Although Lu Mu didn't have that level of cultivation yet, such a terrifying rain of swords was amazing enough. The sound of chi-chi piercing through the air is as terrifying as the magic sound of death. However, an amazing thing happened. After the rain of heavy swords hit the function light curtain, they all melted into the bright light curtain like 100 rivers returning to the sea. The dazzling light in front of Xiao Chen, like 10 days shining in the sky at the same time, makes it impossible to open your eyes. The rain of swords formed by spiritual power in space turned into pure spiritual power in the spoon of the Big Dipper, and then flowed to the handle of the Big Dipper. Xiao Chen kept moving his hands, the mysterious and unpredictable trajectory seemed to tear apart the void. The map of the Big Dipper became extremely hazy, and then suddenly a terrifying energy fluctuation erupted, which merged with the previous space spiritual power and shot out from the end of the spoon handle. Xiao Chen's own power and Lu Mu's power are superimposed together. Like an invincible heavenly sword, the bright light beam brushed past Lu Mu's ears, and then ruthlessly hit the light wall behind him. Amidst the loud noise of rumbling, the strange space of more than 100 square meters collapsed and disappeared. When everything returned to calm, Xiao Chen appeared in the ground of bones, his bones all over his body were crackling, and his body finally supported it without breaking. His whole body was as aggressive as a blade, staring at the opponent in front of him. Lu Mu's body shook a few times, and then he was firmly fixed on the ground like a nail. He was also staring at Xiao Chen, and it took a long time before he said, "You won. I didn't expect that the space spirit warrior of the 5th level of the mortal state would lose to the warrior of the 5th level of the mortal state." But he didn't look depressed, and said, "Actually, my strength is not inferior to yours. Our space spirit's special." Xiao Chen felt that Lu Mu, who was a little sick, was too conceited. Lu Mu smiled wryly. After all, he lost. He laughed at himself and said, "I admit that I lost to you, but you don't have to mock me. Space spirit masters are known as invincible among cultivators of the same level, and they are the kings among cultivators of the same level. You and I are in the 5th level of transformation today, but I lost to you, which really makes me ashamed. I'm not mocking you. I haven't heard of it before. Space spirits are the kings among practitioners of the same level. Because I come from the human world." Xiao Chen has already seen that Lu Mu did not feel resentment because of being defeated in the battle, and did not position him as an enemy, so Xiao Chen gradually eased it. If it is not forced, who would want to make an enemy? You actually come from the human world. After a simple conversation, Xiao Chen finally understood what it means to be a space spirit man, and he is indeed the king of cultivators, as rare as a phoenix feather. However, today he defeated the so-called invincible space spirit warrior of the same level, and he is full of confidence in his heart. The legend can be broken. At the same time, Lu Mu also learned from Xiao Chen what happened on the outskirts of the island recently. He entered the depths of Dragon Island very early, and since Dragon Island was sealed, he has been practicing near the sacred monument. Alliance. Restriction. Sooner or later there will still be a bloody battle, and most people on Dragon Island may not be able to survive. Since Brother Lu has already guessed, how about we take care of each other in the future? Well, I don't want to have an enemy like you either. After a big battle, Lu Mu's face was paler than before. I also don't want to have such a terrifying opponent like you. Xiao Chen is telling the truth, the space spirit who has transformed into the 5th heaven is the strongest opponent he has encountered so far. Chapter 65, Taking the Initiative. Both Xiao Chen and Lu Mu nearly collapsed. After resting for a long enough time, Lu Mu entered the black mist again and continued to practice in the harsh environment. The spiritual power of the space fixed his body, and his whole body was as motionless as a fossil. And Xiao Chen continued to watch around the magic fog area. The battle just now was quick and short, and it was carried out in a closed space, without disturbing the 3 skeletons and KK. In the distance, King Qin Guang, King Yama, and King Reincarnation have not followed. The restricted life zone where the steel is located seems to have a great influence on them, making them restless. KK didn't follow either, and wandered alone in the bone field in the distance. After making a big circle around the steel, Xiao Chen found that he couldn't go deep into the restricted area of life at all. He could only advance a few meters like Lu Mu did, and then he felt the terrifying and destructive aura. When Xiao Chen came back, KK leaned forward, ya, pointing at the sacred monument more than 100 meters high in front, and kept making gestures, as if telling Xiao Chen what it had found. Zilawala. Kiki seemed very dissatisfied that Xiao Chen didn't understand what it meant, so she lost her temper and forcibly dismantled a pile of huge skeletons that were more than 10 meters high, and finally waved her snow-white little animal claw fiercely. However, it didn't have any fierce temperament, which made Xiao Chen feel very funny, and stroked its furry body. In the blink of an eye, 5 days have passed, and Xiao Chen has been haunting the Sea of Bones, searching for the secrets here. Of course, most of the time is spent cultivating near the sacred monument, using the destructive aura emanating from the sacred monument to stimulate his own potential. The area outside the restricted area of life is indeed a good place for cultivation. During the past few days, Xiao Chen discovered that apart from Lu Mu, there were indeed other people haunting this area. He knew that they were definitely masters. Those who first entered the depths of Dragon Island must be full of confidence in their own cultivation. Kiki didn't really follow Xiao Chen, it was just full of curiosity about all new things. These days it kept wandering around the sacred monument, saying, babbling, constantly, as if it was talking to itself. Xiao Chen let it go, this strange little beast must not be subdued by force. The three skeletons seemed unwilling to approach the sacred monument, or even to be in this sea of bones. They chose to practice in the dead forest next to the bone land. The lotus imprint on their foreheads became more and more bright, and it was obvious that their cultivation had shown signs of breakthrough. On the 8th day, there were suddenly a few more figures in the sea of bones, and more than a dozen cultivators appeared in the dead forest, which made this usually extremely quiet dead area a little more angry. People from the periphery of the island have come. In the mountains tens of miles away from here, there are more figures haunting, and many people have built wooden houses in various mountains suitable for cultivation. The people on the outskirts of the island actually migrated en masse and entered the depths of Long Island. In fact, this is also very obvious. After all, everyone is trapped on Long Island, which means that they will live on the island for a long time. The island is infested with savage beasts, and safety can only be guaranteed if many cultivators gather together and live in the same area. Dragon Island has a vast territory, and sooner or later they have to explore all areas. It is impossible to be limited to the periphery of the island. This time, marching into the central area of Long Island is a big move for everyone, and they will explore all areas one after another in the future. Of course, it is impossible for all practitioners to follow the public, and many people have left alone. Hundreds of people live scattered among dozens of mountains, and each alliance is separated by a certain distance. This area is next to the dead forest, dozens of miles away from the Sea of Bones. When Xiao Chen appeared, he immediately attracted the attention of many parties. After the last battle, all alliances knew that he was powerful and he was a sharp sword, not to be trifled with. Xiao Chen found that when the cultivators he met looked at him, they all had a strange look in their eyes. Later, he learned from an alliance founder who wanted to win over that the undead alliance led by Yan Qingcheng had announced to the public that he would start a month-long life and death interaction with him. And after he disappeared for so many days, he came here in a big way, so it's not surprising. This news stunned Xiao Chen. What he was worried about finally happened. Although the scale of the alliance was limited to prevent someone from becoming the king of Dragon Island, it is still developing in a bad direction. Although the alliance seems to be subject to many restrictions on the surface, as long as it is strong enough, it can still control everything secretly. That is to say, in the initial stage of the promulgation of various regulations, no one dared to be the first bird. Once such signs appear now, it will be inevitable in the future, and everything may be manipulated. This is why Xiao Chen chose to retreat immediately after the battle. He had already anticipated this situation. He has already speculated that the previous restrictions are only temporarily effective, and will be destroyed by various behind-the-scenes pushers sooner or later, and Long Island will be very cruel in the future. People full of desire in their hearts, and behind-the-scenes drivers who are unwilling to be lonely, will gather some alliances sooner or later and secretly form some superpowers. Obviously, once the situation of the various regions on Long Island is found out, there will inevitably be a terrible reshuffle, and a cruel fire will be launched secretly among the big forces. By that time, half of the current 600 or 700 people may die in the turmoil. Xiao Chen realized the crisis, and thought that perhaps it was time to create an alliance, but the real players had already been snatched away. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that it was not necessary to create an alliance. As long as he recruited a few experts like Lu Mu to take care of each other, it was better than creating an alliance. Lu Mu definitely has the strength to single out an ordinary alliance. If there are 3 or 5 masters of this level coming together, then no one dares to provoke them. The appearance of Xiao Chen attracted the attention of many parties, but in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he quickly disappeared in front of everyone, and it took a long time to find the location of the Bodhidharma alliance between Yijun and Yiqi. 2 monks with supernatural temperament are enjoying lunch, and there is no doubt that they are full of fish and meat, which is really inconsistent with their dusty temperament. Xiao Chen can't help but laugh every time he sees them. Rare customers. Let's have a fast meal together. The 2 monks were very enthusiastic. Xiao Chen was a little speechless. They dared to say it was a vegetarian meal with such a sumptuous meat feast in front of them. These 2 monks really had a carefree heart. Having lunch with them, Xiao Chen learned a lot of information from the 2 monks. Yan Qingcheng was indeed leading his people to follow his trail, but it seemed that he was in the wrong direction, and he didn't follow the depths of Longdao, and entered a primitive mountain range on the way. An idiot monk speculated that Yan Qingcheng and the others probably discovered the young half-life Dragon King and wanted to capture it. Although it is impossible to leave Dragon Island, if a companion Dragon King is subdued, once it is completely transformed in the future, which alliance on Dragon Island will dare to compete with it? If the ancestral dragon does not come out, the half-life Dragon King will be a very terrifying and invincible king. After enjoying the game feast, Xiao Chen took a bamboo cup of coconut juice and asked Monk Yijun, "Isn't the Immortal Alliance coming out in full force? Could you be thinking?" Monk Yijun quickly guessed what Xiao Chen wanted to do. "Since they have already taken action against me, why should I be polite? Rand has been severely injured by me, he will not follow Yan Qingcheng, right? I want to get rid of the rest of their troops." Chapter 66 Unstoppable. Yijun and Yiqi glanced at each other. Xiao Chen is really courageous, they admire his character very much. Monk Yijun thought for a while, and said, "Counting Rand, there seem to be 3 members of the Undead Alliance who have not been dispatched. But you have to be careful, the Phantom Alliance and the Flying Knife Alliance that they have made friends with are all stationed near the Undead Alliance." After detailed questioning, Xiao Chen learned that the Phantom Alliance was created by a spirit man named Kai Luo, whose natural ability is a mysterious and unpredictable illusion, which seems real and unreal, making it hard to guard against. According to Monk Yijun, Kai Luo is very powerful, he is a well-known up-and-coming genius in the Western tribe, and he probably has few rivals among the young people on Dragon Island. As for the founder of the Flying Knife Alliance, Wang Tong also has a lot of background, he turned out to be the descendant of the legendary hero Li Zunwan. Who doesn't know about Li Zunwan, who doesn't? Xiao Li's flying knife, without any false hair, never lost in his life, finally smashed the void with the flying knife and entered the world of longevity, leaving behind an eternal myth and legend. Even in the longevity world, no one knows who can escape Xiao Li's flying knife. Legend has it that when he first entered the world of longevity, he used a shocking flying knife to destroy a god. As Wang Tong is Li Xuanhuan's descendant, no cultivator would dare to take it lightly. After all, Xiao Li's flying saber has never failed, and it has terrified practitioners of several generations. Xiao Chen frowned, and said to himself, "Kai Luo, the founder of the Phantom Alliance, a genius spirit man. Wang Tong, the successor of Xiao Li Fei Dao, makes people hard to guard against." The idiot monk seemed to have remembered something important, and said, "Strange, Kai Luo and Wang Tong have disappeared these days." The 3 of them seemed to think of something at the same time. Monk Yijun said, "Don't act rashly, I will send someone to find out the situation." 2 hours later, Monk Yijun received the news that Spirit Shi Kailuo and Xiao Li Fidao successor Wang Tong had indeed disappeared for a few days. "Hey, I'm afraid they are with Yan Qingcheng." Xiao Chen sneered and said, "They really value me. Don't act rashly, I'll send someone to find out more about the situation." Monk Yijun once again asked the Dharma Alliance to investigate. It wasn't until the evening that they got some definite news. Someone saw Kai Luo and Wang Tong leading some people into a primitive mountain range with Undead Alliance. "If you really want to join hands to get rid of me." Xiao Chen stood in front of the window of the wooden house, looking at the afterglow of the setting sun, and said, "In this case, I don't need to be polite. Didn't they all go out together? I will take the rest of them. Don't be reckless, maybe Kai Luo and Wang Tong are going to accompany the Dragon King, if you act rashly, you may make a big enemy." Yijun persuaded. "I know what to do. The Immortal Alliance will definitely suffer. I don't like to fight back when people beat me up. It's fine if the people left behind by the Phantom Alliance and the Flying Knife Alliance don't intervene. If they make a move, don't let me be rude." Xiao Chen acted decisively, especially in such a life and death matter, he would never be ignorant to the enemy. As night fell, there were stars. In the endless primeval forest, there is still no calm down. The roars of all kinds of savage beasts rise and fall in the mountains and forests. There are also unknown huge beasts running wildly like mountains shaking and shaking the ground, cruelly hunting for food, and bloody scenes are staged one after another. Xiao Chen took the 3 skeletons and advanced silently in the primitive old forest, avoiding many alliances and entering a mountain range, and then touched the location of the Undead Alliance. A few dark clouds slowly floated over, covering up the stars in the sky. The primitive old forest fell into darkness, and a heavy rain was inevitable. At this time, Xiao Chen had arrived at the location of the Undead Alliance with 3 skeletons. Boom! Lightning struck down, piercing the darkness and illuminating the night sky. Xiao Chen strode forward, swinging the sword with his palm. A brilliant light of the sword immediately illuminated the mountain, and reflected with the lightning in the sky. The huge light of the sword cut the wooden house in half in an instant. "Who?" 2 figures rushed out quickly. Xiao Chen stared at them coldly, didn't find Rand's figure, strode towards the nearby search, and handed them over to the 3 skeletons who were about to step into the 3rd heaven of transformation realm. "It's you, come here." The 2 members of the Undead Alliance felt panic. They didn't expect the evil star to kill them. They shouted in panic, hoping that people from the Phantom Alliance and the Flying Knife Alliance would take action. The shout alarmed the nearby alliance, and many people stood watching from a distance. Among the people left behind by the Phantom Alliance and the Flying Knife Alliance, several figures rushed over quickly. The screams were extremely distant in the dark night. Even if there were thunders from time to time, it was difficult to cover up. King Qin Guang, King Yan Luo, and King Reincarnation are all close to the third level of the mortal realm. Attacking and killing two members of the Undead Alliance who are in the second level of the mortal realm can be said to have an overwhelming advantage, and torn one of them apart in just a moment. Boom! Lightning danced wildly, and the electric light made the three skeletons extremely pale. Many people watching from a distance could clearly see their figures. The pale skeletons and the screams are really terrifying. Lightning flashed and heavy rain fell. When the members of the Phantom Alliance and the Undead Alliance rushed over, the torrential rain could hardly cover up the pungent smell of blood. Under the frantic dancing lightning, two torn corpses could be seen lying at the feet of three snow-white skeletons. Not far away, there is also a tall and straight phantom facing them with its back. Xiao Chenhua turned around, and said indifferently, "You two alliances want to get rid of me." His right hand was like a knife, and he swung forward. The bright light of the knife seemed to be connected with the lightning in the sky. Under the dazzling light, the whole mountain forest trembled. Xiao Chen is like a god of death. The screams kept ringing, and the five heavens of the mortal realm were unstoppable. In the dark rainy night, amidst the lightning, thunder, and heavy rain, Xiao Chen's tall and straight body was deeply imprinted in the minds of all the onlookers in the distance. This was a one-sided massacre. Afterwards, Xiao Chen strode towards the Phantom Alliance. The frightening sword light pierced through the thunder and lightning in the sky, and Xiao Chen was like a demon god in the rainy night. The light of the knife was brilliant, and where it passed, the mountains and forests fell, the wooden houses collapsed, and blood spattered. Then, he walked towards the Flying Knife Alliance, still full of murderous aura, blood bursting out. On a dark rainy night, the pungent smell of blood is hard to block even the rain. This mountain is filled with blood, which can be smelled from far away. There are many alliances nearby, and many people are waiting and watching. When the lightning strikes violently, the terrifying phantom that flashes out has left an indelible mark on their hearts. In this rainy night, the Undead Alliance, Phantom Alliance, and Flying Knife Alliance were wiped out. Chapter 67 Stunner. On the second day, many alliances learned the news, and everyone was extremely surprised. Although Xiao Chen's face could not be seen clearly in the rainy night, his tall and straight figure and terrifying combat power made people immediately speculate that it was him. Coupled with the news that Kai Luo, the founder of the Phantom Alliance, and Wang Tong, the founder of the Flying Knife Alliance, seem to have led several masters to help Yan Qingcheng, it is even easier for people to guess that Xiao Chen's actions are completely aimed at them. Xiao Chen's terrifying combat power really shocked many people this time. Walking in the forest after the rain, breathing in the fresh air, Xiao Chen sent the three skeletons back to the dead forest to continue their practice. According to the information revealed by a cultivator before his death, he continued to search for traces of the cursor Rand in areas where many alliances gathered, but unfortunately, he never found anything. Rand, an important figure in the Undead Alliance, escaped last night's attack even though he was seriously injured in the last battle, and Xiao Chen did not find him from the beginning to the end. The sun has already risen, and the heavy rain at night makes the sky bluer. Monkeys and tigers roar in the primitive old forests, and birds sing among the beautiful flowers and trees. Different regions have different styles. Although he haunted the gathering places of many alliances, Xiao Chen deliberately concealed his whereabouts so he was not discovered. He was not noticed until noon, when he was enjoying his lunch beside a jasper belt brook, rising from the rising smoke. A curvaceous and graceful figure walked gracefully in lotus steps, walked through the verdant green forest, walked through the fragrant flowers, and came to the side of the slowly flowing stream, appearing in front of Xiao Chen. This is an extremely charming woman, with an irresistible temperament and charm. The peerless and enchanting posture is full of beauty, and charming, with various charms, soft and charming, like spring water, she can be called a stunner of a generation. The exquisite and undulating soft body is looming in the almost translucent black silk dress, the graceful curves, and the seductive luster flashing on the bare skin, arousing infinite reverie. Brother Xiao is facing each other sideways, sitting alone by the stream. Don't you welcome me? The woman's lips are rosy and sexy, her teeth are as white as jade when she smiles, and her charming eyes under the long eyelashes have an irresistible charm. Even if the beauty crowns the world, so what? With Xiao Chen's character, it is impossible to be confused by beauty. Xiao Chen looked at her and smiled, and said, "You are Ruyan Lu, the founder of the Pink Alliance, right?" Lu Ruyan smiled lightly. It was truly seductive. That charming face seemed to be blended with softness and glamour with spring water. It was extremely charming and soft, and the delicate face like cream was almost dripping water. I didn't expect my name to be known by Brother Xiao. Every member of the Pink League is charming and beautiful, and the founder Lu Ruyan is even more perverted. How could I not know? The breeze blows gently, and the fragrance of flowers rippling among the flowers by the stream. Lu Ruyan's silk gauze skirt moved with the wind, immediately clearly outlining her perfect and sexy body. The slender jade legs are completely formed according to the golden ratio, the round and plump buttocks make people think about it, the small waist is delicate and soft, and the plump double peaks are plump and upright, which makes people think about it. Lu Ruyan smiled charmingly and said, "Turn all beings upside down. Brother Xiao is mocking us as vixens, right? No, I really compliment you, hee hee." Lu Ruyan smiled coquettishly, her delicate body was like a soft willow in the breeze. "I sent someone to invite Brother Xiao before, but Brother Xiao didn't like us weak girls and ignored us. So, today I came to the door in person. Leader Lu, you are embarrassing me. Your alliance is all beauties in pink, how can I join as a man? Brother Xiao, you are not honest enough. Last time we obviously didn't invite you to join the Pink Alliance, but just wanted to form an alliance with you. You can't be so reckless." "That's right, that was my negligence, I misunderstood." Xiao Chen nodded with a smile, and said, "If it's a secret alliance, of course I am willing. Multiple friends have multiple paths. Now that we are trapped on Dragon Island, we should take care of each other. However, I am a problematic person. Some people always want to make trouble for me. Are you not afraid that I will cause trouble for you?" "Why am I not afraid?" Lu Ruyan glanced at Xiao Chen. Yan looked at Xiao Chen charmingly, with all kinds of charms. If he was an ordinary person, his heart might have already been swayed by the charm. "The people you offended all have backgrounds. Yan Qingcheng, the successor of immortality, Kaio, a strong young man from the barbarian tribe, and Arod, a strong young man from the forest tribe. Now you have offended Kai Luo, a genius illusionist, and Wang Tong, the successor of Shaoli Fidao. Each one is more difficult to offend. You know it clearly, but you still want to form an alliance with me. Adding icing on the cake is worse than giving charcoal in the snow. When you are in a good situation, you may not care at all when you extend an olive branch to you. But now your situation is not optimistic. I form an alliance with you and help you in times of crisis. Presumably, if I encounter a fatal disaster in the future, you will not ignore things, right? Acting is the most effective. Oh, so you are forming an alliance with me now, and you want to stand on the same front with me, and make enemies with Yan Qingcheng and others." Xiao Chen looked at Lu Ruyan with a half-smile. "Hee hee, I don't think life is too long." Lu Ruyan chuckled, and then said, "We form an alliance secretly. Unless one of the parties is in danger of life and death, we don't need to help each other. What I said is true. If one day, your life is really in danger, I can help you." Xiao Chen smiled. This is a utilitarian alliance with a gambling heart. Lu Ruyan valued his superb fighting power, and felt that he would not be in danger of life and death in this turmoil, and did not need her help at all, and forming an alliance with him at this time did not require any effort, waiting for her to win a strong ally in the future and a good way out. "Okay, then let's form an alliance in secret. Maybe in a few days, Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo, and Wang Tong will kill me. I'm in danger of life and death, and I need to go to you." Lu Ruyan's charming expression froze for a moment, but she recovered in an instant, and said with a smile, "I believe in your strength, you will definitely be able to pass this test smoothly." Xiao Chen smiled, didn't say anything, but guessed in his heart that this peerless beauty who looked at Yan Qingcheng and turned all sentient beings upside down probably had secret alliances with many people, but he couldn't tell, and on the surface he still needed, sincere, coping. The fish swim in the clear stream, and the flowers and plants on both sides are fragrant. It is peaceful and lively here. The naked lotus root arms outside Lu Ruyan's sleeves are extraordinarily tender, with a seductive luster, showing an incomparably moving youthful aura. The neck like a swan is white and smooth, and the delicate face is like a flower. She smiled and said, "It's settled like this, we will form an alliance from now on. But this is only a secret that belongs to you and me, and no one else can know it. Of course, this is a secret between you and me. But you don't need to form an alliance with me at all. No one would have the heart to kill a woman as beautiful as you. A woman like me, hee hee, the danger is even greater. I always feel like living among wolves, and maybe I will be swallowed by someone at any time. Lu Ruyan laughed and said, so you need to prepare early. Hee, maybe you will have to find a big backer in the future. Of course Xiao Chen understood what she meant by backing the mountain. Perhaps many beautiful women who were deeply trapped in Long Island would walk on such a path. Lu Ruyan smiled lightly. Xiao Chen hopes that you will become stronger and stronger, maybe I will find you as a backer in the future. Chapter 68 Eastbound. Isn't it possible now? Xiao Chen smiled. Hee, it turns out that you are not honest. I thought you were just a cold-blooded strong man who acted decisively and would not be moved by external things. Lu Ruyan is definitely a beautiful woman who is charming to the core, and her charming face exudes a strange charm. Lu Ruyan left in a charming manner, graceful in lotus steps, graceful and graceful, with slender jade legs, round buttocks, soft and thin waist, and hazy curves, leaving Xiao Chen with an extremely sexy and enchanting back. This is indeed a stunner with infinite charm. Her enchanting and charming side has far overshadowed her own beauty. Even if her appearance is not comparable to Zhao Lin'er and Yan Qingcheng, her own temptation is already higher than those two people. Xiao Chen looked at his heroic figure reflected in the stream, and quickly calmed down. He and Lu Ruyan are just using each other, and the alliance between them is superfluous in form. Xiao Chen wiped out 3 alliances in one night and collapsed, causing an uproar. Such a strong posture made everyone realize that this young man who has not joined any alliance is not easy to provoke, and must not be provoked. In a sense, Xiao Chen's name has been branded in everyone's hearts, and it is definitely the focus of people's talking. Many people know that when Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo, Wang Tong and others return, there will be a storm, and they will not let it go. Many people are eagerly looking forward to a big battle, and there will be a peak duel. Undoubtedly, Xiao Chen is already a man of the hour on Long Island, causing many alliances to pay special attention to him, and attracting the attention of many young men and women cultivators. Of course Xiao Chen knew that people were talking about him. He had been haunting the gathering places of the alliance for the past 2 days, and he was closely watching the current situation. In the end, Tong Tongzhen and Yi Kai happily ate a feast of meat, and he left here. Yan Qingcheng and others are about to return. Xiao Chen decided to disappear for a while, hurry up to practice, and let those people go crazy first. 3 skeletons were found in the dead forest, and then they came to the Sea of Bones. Xiao Chen wanted to say hello to Lu Mu, but found that Lu Mu had left here. And other cultivators who entered the depths of Long Island earlier also completely lost their traces. It must be that many cultivators from the periphery of the island poured in. There are people coming and going here from time to time, and it is no longer a good place for meditation. The figures haunting the sacred monument in the Sea of Bones are all later cultivators. Xiao Chen hugged KK, who was sleeping soundly, among a pile of Tyrannosaurus bones near the sacred monument. Yi, Kiki waved the little beast's paw ferociously and babbled dissatisfiedly after being interrupted from her dream. KK, how about I take you to eat something delicious? Xiao Chen began to put out scented bait, ready to take KK away. This strange little beast is as white as jade, furry as a tiger, and like a lion cub. There was no way around this. The little beast showed no signs of following him, it was just following him out of curiosity before, and he had to make this little beast feel novel all the time. Hearing that you can enjoy delicious food, Kiki's big bright eyes immediately twinkled with small stars, and her long eyelashes blinked vigorously, and she couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva with a grunt. Xiao Chen was amused all of a sudden. This little beast is really interesting. But at this time, Kiki lowered her head in frustration, touching her round belly in pain. At the beginning, it swallowed so much nectar of life, but now it has not been fully digested, so it cannot enjoy the delicious food. I have a way to get you out of pain, of course it will take a certain amount of time. Kiki's eyes lit up again immediately, and she kept saying, babbling, as if she was questioning whether Xiao Chen really had such abilities. Don't worry, I will definitely be able to help you solve the problem. Of course, you need your precious tree. Xiao Chen pointed to the treasure tree hat that Kiki put on his head. Kiki immediately took down the treasure tree and threw it to Xiao Chen nonchalantly. The sacred little tree knew that it must be about to cry, but the little beast didn't seem to care about it at all. It can't work here. We have to go to a quiet place where we won't be disturbed. In addition, I need to think about it. In this way, Xiao Chen and his party started on the road. Although the little beast kept looking back at the sacred tablet, he finally left here. From time to time, the sound of dragon roars could be heard in the depths of the island. Xiao Chen wanted to try his luck and see if he could find a few dragon eggs. Walking through the dead forest, Xiao Chen was very surprised. The forest here is green and green. Why is it so quiet? There is not even a single bird. Is it because it is next to the sea of dead bones? The towering ancient trees in this area require more than a dozen people to embrace them. The age of the trees is definitely more than thousands of years. It is really not worse than the Valley of Tree People. However, there is no sign of tree people appearing here. Obviously, no tree people have successfully transformed. This time, Xiao Chen didn't head towards the direction where many alliances live in the north. After they entered the dead forest, they headed east all the way. They didn't walk through this extremely silent forest until they had traveled tens of miles. When you come to the lively world outside, you will feel a big difference immediately. The ding-ding-dong-dong, flowing river, the fragrant fragrance of flowers, the cheerful singing of birds, and the sound of roaring animals make this world look full of vitality. Although the sound of the dragon's roar resounded in the mountains from time to time, Xiao Chen and the others did not find out exactly where they were after advancing for more than 10 miles. They encountered many terrifying beasts, and they were all wild and alien species. Xiao Chen suspected that some fierce beasts might be able to resist the evil dragon. Soon, Xiao Chen found a river in the forest. Along the river to the east, the green bamboos on both sides gradually increased, and other trees gradually decreased. Until, after advancing a few miles again, there are already large bamboo forests around. In this area, there are far fewer wild beasts, and most of them are herbivorous beasts. Green bamboos, green rivers, low shrubs, crisp birdsong, and elks that don't startle people, etc., make this area appear very harmonious and peaceful. Dragon Island, where fierce beasts are rampant, rarely has such a peaceful area. More than 20 wild elephants in front of them are drinking water on the bank of the river. The white ivory is shining with a faint crystal luster, and the strong elephants are lined up like tall walls. However, at this moment, there was a commotion among the elephant herd, and all the wild elephants seemed to be frightened. They all roared and turned around to run away. Xiao Chen obviously felt something strange. He felt a burst of stench coming towards his face, a gust of wind blew up in the bamboo forest in front, and a road separated in the bamboo forest. All the bamboos automatically fell to the sides, looking extremely strange. Chapter 69 Approaching Kiki's hometown. A ferocious beast that can command the wind. Xiao Chen yelled that it was not good. If he guessed correctly, it must be a giant snake. Legend has it that a successful snake god can divide vegetation and determine the path of snakes. Xiao Chen picked up KK, turned around and ran away, followed by the 3 skeletons, like a few light smokes, and fled the area in the blink of an eye. Through the shadow of the whirling tree, he turned his head to wait and see, and saw a huge green snake rushing out of the bamboo forest, which was as thick as a house. The high-standing section of the snake's body is more than 10 meters long, and the blue scales are shining with a frightening light, and each scale is as big as a cattail fan. The huge snake head in the air looked down on the wild elephants, and the blood-red snake eyes the size of a washbasin emitted a terrifying and fierce light. The white fangs in the wide mouth are all more than half a meter long, like sharp swords. The scarlet snake Noban is 4 or 5 meters long, and it is erratic and terrifying. The snake body of unknown length lay directly across the bamboo forest by the river, like a blue dam, blocking the way of the wild elephants. And around the giant snake, on the bamboo shoots and among the bushes, there are countless tiny blue shadows wriggling. It turned out to be many small blue snakes. In the distance, Xiao Chen couldn't help but gasped. The blue snake turned out to be Zuyeching. The poisonous snake Zuyeching is generally no more than half a meter long. Although it is very small, it is extremely poisonous, and rarely exceeds 2 meters. And right now, this huge bamboo leaf green is as thick as a house, and the huge snake body is hidden by the bamboo forest, so I don't know how long it is. This is so terrifying and frightening, it is hard to imagine how long it has lived. This must be a fierce beast that survived from ancient times. Definitely able to fight some of the fierce dragons on the island. The elephant herd was blocked from escape, and the screams of wild elephants filled the area, and finally half of the wild elephants turned around and rushed towards the river. At the same time, the huge Zuyeching also moved. When the huge snake's head poked out, a 5-meter-long blood-red snake letter instantly landed on the body of a wild elephant and rolled it over. Then, the huge mouth that could no longer be described as blood basin, opened to the limit, and the sharp and venomous white fangs gleamed with terrifying light, and swallowed the wild elephant's head in one gulp. The scene was extremely bloody and terrifying. The giant snake's sharp fangs instantly paralyzed the wild elephant's body, making it incapacitated in an instant, and then devoured it bit by bit. Snake swallows elephants. The giant snake Zuyeching who survived from ancient times actually swallowed a wild elephant into its belly. The scene was extremely shocking and frightening. The elephants fled in terror. Some wild elephants rushed into the river and were rushed downstream, while some ran towards the blue-colored embankment-like snake body, trying to rush over and escape from here. The giant cyan shadow swayed. A gust of wind surged in the bamboo forest, the stench made people want to vomit, the ground kept trembling, the bamboo forest danced wildly, endless bamboo leaves were flying down, and the giant snake's huge body instantly entangled the 4 wild elephants tightly. The wild elephant screamed and struggled with difficulty, but finally weakened and remained motionless. The huge bloody mouth opened to the limit again, and swallowed 4 wild elephants one after another. This bloody and brutal scene made the other wild elephants terrified, all trembling, and finally knelt down on the ground, wailing continuously. The ancient vicious snake, Zuyecheng, seemed not to want to kill at all. The 5 wild elephants had already satisfied its appetite. The huge snake slowly swam towards the depths of the bamboo forest, and gradually disappeared into the shadows of the forest. The herd of wild elephants fled to the distance as if they had been pardoned. The ground trembled, the trees on the river bank shook wildly, and the fallen leaves flew all over the sky. Xiao Chen felt thrilled. After experiencing this incident, he knew that even the seemingly peaceful area hides great dangers. This is an island where people have to be cautious. There are too many prehistoric beasts hidden in the endless mountains and forests. Kiki broke free from Xiao Chen's hands, and like a light and agile little ape, climbed to the top of a green bamboo, looking at the departing giant snake. For this, Xiao Chen has long been used to it. Although KK is like a lion and a tiger, she can also walk upright. Sometimes she looks more like a little monkey. She is really a freak. Yeah, it muttered excitedly, as if expressing its joy. What's wrong, Kiki? Xiao Chen looked at it in surprise. Kiki nimbly jumped down, pointed to itself and the sacred tree, and then pointed to the forest ahead, which confused Xiao Chen, and it took him a long time to understand what it meant. The front seemed to be the hometown of the sacred tree and Kiki. Where were you born, Kiki? Xiao Chen looked at it in surprise. He had been trying to figure out the origin of this little beast. Now, if he goes to its hometown, maybe the mystery of Kiki's life experience will become clear. Kiki blinked her big bright eyes, nodded vigorously, and pointed to the sacred little tree at the same time. It could be seen that it was very excited. Xiao Chen was also a little happy. If the sacred little tree really grew in Kiki's hometown, wouldn't there be some precious trees there? The 3 skeletons also surrounded them, and they seemed to be looking forward to Kiki's hometown. Yeah, this time Kiki ran forward first, as if she wanted to lead the way. Xiao Chen laughed. This little thing wanted to go home so eagerly, probably because he lost his way at the beginning, so he ran to the outskirts of Long Island. He is really a confused little guy. KK was so fearless that she wanted to pass directly through the habitat of the ancient fierce snake. Xiao Chen hurriedly stopped it, and then made a detour. This made the little beast very dissatisfied, and kept babbling. I really don't know if it is not afraid of fierce snakes, or if it is really a little confused. There are more and more evil beasts as they go forward. Xiao Chen really doubts that Kiki's hometown is not a den of evil beasts, right? On the way forward, they found many terrifying savage beasts, some of which were even bigger than the ancient dragons, and they could definitely compete with the evil dragons. Suddenly, there was a strong wind, the giant trees in the forest trembled, the leaves fluttered, and many wild animals ran wildly. Xiao Chen looked up and saw a giant bird flying past the mountains and forests. Its feathers were red and shiny, and its body was comparable to that of the bright dragon. It was more than 10 meters long, and its wings stretched to 30 meters. Kiki is not afraid at all, curled up like a snow-white pom-pom, rolling around excitedly on the grass, which means that it must be coming to its hometown soon. After traveling for more than a mile, they saw a 10-meter-long golden giant centipede as thick as a water tank, crouching in the dark woodland as they walked through a dark swamp. This is really shocking. The centipede can grow to such a huge size, it is simply unbelievable. This is definitely a terrifying poisonous insect that survived from ancient times. I am afraid that fierce dragons will make a detour when they encounter it. The forest was extremely dark, the huge centipede shone with a strange golden luster, and its outer shell was as hard as iron. When Xiao Chen saw it, he easily broke a towering ancient tree, like a giant metal beast that was invincible. Hundreds of pairs of golden worm legs were even sharper than knives, and the rocks in the swamp were chopped into pieces as they squirmed lightly. Xiao Chen believed more and more that KK's hometown might be a den of ferocious beasts, and there were more and more wild beasts. Chapter 70 Heaven Reaching Divine Tree. After walking through a large area of primitive mountains and forests, Xiao Chen and the others gradually approached their destination. Yeah, KK jumped onto Xiao Chen's shoulder, stretched out a small animal claw and pointed at a mountain in front of her. Roar. Ah. ... All of a sudden, dragons roared from the mountains, causing the mountains to tremble, the trees danced wildly, and the fallen leaves were flying. It can't be an ancient fierce dragon, and there are no fewer than 7 or 8 dragons according to the sound. Xiao Chen secretly groaned. It seemed that he had really walked into the beast's den. This little guy seemed to have a big background. The lotus imprints on the frontal bones of the 3 skeletons suddenly shone brightly. They looked around vigilantly, and their joints cracked. It was obvious that they felt the danger ahead. Kiki, did you really live in the beast's den? What kind of little beast are you? Kiki was very dissatisfied, as if she was blaming Xiao Chen for calling it a little beast. She jumped on Xiao Chen's head angrily, and then scratched, messing Xiao Chen's long hair all at once. Okay, I'm afraid of you. Xiao Chen hurriedly grabbed it and put it on the ground. Walking into this mountain, it is obvious that many huge paw prints can be found, all of which belong to fierce dragons. Turning over a mountain range, Xiao Chen saw a scene that surprised him very much, a black mountain range gleaming with black light, stretching across several mountain ranges. The light is a little bit, and it is as crystal clear as black jade. KK happily jumped up and down on the skulls of King Qinguang, King Yama, and King Samsara, apparently already in its hometown. Then, it happily jumped down and ran towards the Moyu ridge ahead. Xiao Chen and the 3 skeletons followed closely behind. Anyway, they had already arrived here, and it was impossible for them to stop just because of the roar of a dragon nearby. However, when approaching Moyu Ridge, Xiao Chen was stunned for a moment. He found that the so-called Black Mountains looked very much like tree trunks. A huge tree trunk lying down among the mountains, shining with black light. Xiao Chen was completely dumbfounded when he came close. The Black Mountain was actually a tree trunk. Walking along it not far away, he could find some huge branches separated. It's incredible. The trunk is as thick as a mountain. If this giant tree with black light is still alive, if it is still standing on the ground, how tall will it be? I'm afraid it will soar into the sky. It can be called a tree that reaches the sky. Not far ahead, there is a crumbling mountain, as if it has experienced a terrible earthquake. Almost all the peaks have collapsed, and the occasional rocky mountains are already full of huge cracks. Most of the area has sunk. If you exclude the rocky mountains that are about to collapse, it can be called an extremely wide basin. The inside is very strange, and there are many rocks. Even if there is soil, there is no trace of vegetation, and it is dead. But the Tongtian God tree was broken when it reached here, and the huge canopy of the tree had long since disappeared. It seemed to be buried in the ground along with the crumbling mountain in front of it, leaving people with infinite reverie. People have to wonder if there was a catastrophe here a long time ago. Let the endless mountain peaks collapse, and let the ancient trees reach the sky break their crowns. Hey, where's Kiki? Xiao Chen suddenly found that Kiki had disappeared. Crack, click, Reincarnation King's funny Zhang closed his chin, pointed to the other end of the tree, and motioned KK to run towards the root of the tree. Let's go take a look too. Xiao Chen and the 3 skeletons quickly followed. Although the black jade-like ancient tree Tongtian has long since died and has been dumped in the mountains, it is still as high as the mountains. It is too huge, like a mountain ridge, far more majestic than the mountains. Xiao Chen and the others walked through many mountains and forests, and walked 8 or 9 miles before approaching the place where the ancient tree was broken. However, these 8 or 9 miles did not represent the true length of the trunk of the ancient tree. The broken root of the Tongtian God tree was also extremely shocking. The tree stump on the surface was as majestic as a mountain. Both thick and high were larger than the nearby mountains. It really shocked people's hearts. The few huge rhizomes exposed on the ground are like mountains and ridges, sinking into the underground of the distant mountains, which is jaw-dropping. Roar. Ah, the sound of dragon roar is nearby. It seems that there are 7 or 8 fierce dragons roaring. Not only that, but there seemed to be roars from other savage beasts, which were as deafening as thunder. Dare to roar in the area where fierce dragons haunt, it is definitely not inferior to the wild ancient beasts of the dragon clan. Here, just as Xiao Chen guessed, it is like a den of ferocious beasts. Where is Kiki? Where is it? Xiao Chen looked around. He was really afraid that Kiki would run into the mountains and enter the area where many fierce beasts roared. Kaba Kaba. King Qinguang moved his jaw and pointed at the stump of the ancient tree that reached the sky. The stumps of the sacred tree were also black and shiny, as crystal clear as black jade. Xiao Chen looked up and found that Kiki was climbing up the smooth trunk like a mountain like a nimble little monkey, and was nearly 1,000 meters away from the ground. The three skeletons were also eager to try, wanting to climb up to see what happened. Xiao Chen said with a smile, "Well, let's also go up to see Kiki, the little beast's den." That is to say, with their level of cultivation, ordinary people are absolutely unable to climb, because the trunks of ancient trees are crystal clear like jade, extremely smooth, and it is difficult to use strength. The tree stumps of the Shenmue can be as high as 1,500 meters, and most of the mountains on Longdao are below 1,300 meters. When Xiao Chen and the others climbed to the top, they were shocked again. He found that the top of the stump was extremely flat, as if it had been cut off by a sharp weapon, and it was definitely not broken by other reasons. The trunk of the sacred tree, which is as thick as a mountain, was actually chopped off. This is really unbelievable, and it reminds people of many. The section is also gleaming with black light, which is the same color as the trunk, and the top is very broad, like a flat-topped mountain. KK was lost in the distance, moving her steps aimlessly. Xiao Chen walked over and found that its big bright eyes were full of confusion, like a lost child, a little pitiful. "Kiki, what's wrong with you?" It was rare for KK to be not mischievous. She quietly crouched down, curled up on the ground, and let out a whimper, like a lonely child crying, like a wounded little animal that lost its mother, lying there pitifully motionless, with mist in its big eyes. Chapter 71 The Beast's Nest. KK's humane sadness made Xiao Chen feel a little sour, and the three skeletons squatted down around the little beast. From their point of view, it was really strange that this little devil in the world could have the current expression. "Woo." Kiki curled up into a snow-white pom-pom as if hurt. Xiao Chen is as cold as iron to his enemies, but he always treats people around him sincerely. Although KK is a small beast, after all, he has been with him for so long, and he has already regarded him as a strange child. "KK, don't be afraid." Xiao Chen knelt down and hugged KK. KK seemed to have found support, whimpering continuously, buried her head deeply in Xiao Chen's arms, just like how pitiful Xiao Chen was when she saw it for the first time, like an abandoned child. Kaba Kaba. The three skeletons looked at each other in blank dismay. They had always been jealous of small animals, and the scene in front of them made them extremely surprised. After repeated probing and questioning, Xiao Chen took a lot of effort to roughly figure out what was going on. Kiki seems to be an abandoned child. It knows that it was born here, but it has never met its parents. The little poor boy who was born shortly after he climbed down the Shenmue tree and got lost in the mountains, and then wandered to the outskirts of the island. Today I found my way home, but I never thought that I still haven't seen its parents here. This made the little beast, which has rich emotions like humans, very disappointed, and that's why it was so wrong. "KK, don't get lost." Xiao Chen laughed and said, "I'm the same as you, and it's impossible for me to be with my family anymore. We will be relatives in the future. You are a powerful little beast. You can't be wronged like this. Be a strong little beast." Yeah, Xiao Chen's words really changed Kiki's mood. It waved its two little beast claws angrily, threatening Xiao Chen with its fangs and claws, as if it was very dissatisfied with the title, Little Fierce Beast. Xiao Chen found this method very effective, and quickly diverted KK's attention. "Let's go, let's see where the little beast's den is, and where we found that precious tree." Xiao Chen hugged Kiki, and wandered around on the broken log with three skeletons. KK jumped off Xiao Chen angrily, and ran happily towards the center of the broken log like a little wild horse, really like a child. She quickly turned from disappointment. The cross-section of the Tongtian Shenshu is extremely smooth. Xiao Chen was surprised to find that there were some broken eggshells in the central area, which were as crystal clear as seven-colored jade, with a faint glow flowing. Kiki was a little attached and mischievous rolling around among these broken jade shells, which made Xiao Chen's mouth wide open in surprise. Kiki was born from a jade-like egg. Kiki looks a little like a lion cub, and a little like a tiger cub. Her fur is white and shiny like jade. It doesn't look like she was born from an egg. It would be more or less the same if she was covered with scales, but it's not the case. Great background. Xiao Chen thinks that KK's life experience is probably not simple. She may be a descendant of a very powerful beast, otherwise, how could she be born in a nest of fierce beasts haunted by dragons and many wild beasts? Nearby is a dragon hissing and a beast roaring. KK, who was rolling around among the broken jade shells, seemed to have remembered something, grabbed the treasure tree hat on her head, and then planted it next to the broken jade shells. The roots of the sacred seedlings immediately plunged into the black jade-like section. "You don't want to tell me that the sacred seedlings were poached from here?" Xiao Chen looked at KK in surprise. Kiki nodded vigorously, blinking her big bright eyes. "The heavenly god tree is dead, and the sacred seedlings cannot absorb the vitality of life." Xiao Chen looked at the precious tree but was stunned for a moment. The sacred seedlings were born from the broken roots of the Tongtian God tree. It is definitely a veritable holy tree, no wonder it is still immortal when it leaves the soil. But the little tree seems to be a little unfortunate, and has become the ration of the abandoned child Kiki. After she was born, Kiki sucked the jade leaves from the little tree to survive. After probably knowing what was going on, Xiao Chen felt a little emotional. Could it be that Kiki's parents deliberately left him such rations? The miraculous little beasts are probably no worse than those legendary companion dragon kings, Xiao Chen thought so. Hee. Kiki rolled around among the broken jade shells, as if she had completely shaken off her disappointment, and laughed like she used to when she was happy. Get up, don't roll around. Xiao Chen pulled KK up, and then collected a pile of colored jade shells together, saying, "This is your ID card, let me put it away for you." He tore off a piece of clothes, wrapped it up and carried it on his back. Roar! The huge dragon's roar shook the nearby mountains and trembled. The rolling sound waves were extremely loud in the sky, and the tremor of the airflow could be clearly felt. Come on, let's go over there and have a look. The roar of the dragon came from the mountains in the east. Xiao Chen and the others walked forward on the section of the ancient tree that reached the sky, and looked forward when they approached the edge. Several colossal creatures were covered in scales, shining with hazy divine light, moving among the mountains not far away. They were only a few hundred meters away from each other, but they did not cause any conflict, which was obviously very abnormal. Those are some fierce dragons. Usually he is the king who dominates one side, and it is impossible to allow other prehistoric beasts to enter his territory. Xiao Chen was startled in his heart. He had clearly seen a cyan tyrannosaurus, a huge dragon body as long as 50 meters, and the hazy cyan light, which set off it was extraordinarily terrifying. Not far from the cyan tyrannosaurus, there was a gigantic monster that could also be 50 meters long, and its aura was no less imposing than it. There was a light yellow light shining all over its body, as if it was cast from brass. It looks like a hero, but it can't be a lion. It is covered with yellow dragon scales. The lion's head is hideous and scary. A pair of blue eyes are as sharp as two will-o'-the-wisps. The lion-like mane is entirely composed of huge bone spurs that are several meters long, and the yellow light is gloomy. The four thick and powerful giant claws are like four giant pillars, each of which requires 7 or 8 people to embrace. On the whole, except for the gleaming yellow scales and the huge crocodile tail, this fierce dragon really looks like a mountain-like giant lion. Xiao Chen recognized it at a glance. This is the legendary Lion King dragon. In terms of strength, it is by no means inferior to the Tyrannosaurus rex. It is a very rare and powerful dragon species among the dragon clan. Tyrannosaurus and Lion King dragon are very close to each other, and they live in peace. What is even more surprising is that there is an equally powerful dragon clan not far away from them. A huge stegosaurus is like a jade mountain, standing on a high hill and roaring towards the sky. Chapter 72 The Holy Mountain. Tyrannosaurus and Lion King dragon are very close to each other, and they live in peace. What is even more surprising is that there is an equally powerful dragon clan not far away from them. A huge stegosaurus is like a jade mountain, standing on a high hill and roaring towards the sky. It can be more than 40 meters long. If you want to describe its overall appearance, it looks like a half-standing giant crocodile. Of course, there are still very big differences. It has a very sharp jasper horn on its head, about 10 meters long. This is a natural sword. It can be said to be invincible, which is the reason for its name. Moreover, on both sides of its body, there are 2 rows of sharp cone-like jasper bone spurs, both of which are several meters long, which can block strong enemies from approaching, and can be used for side collisions when necessary. Although the shape of Stegosaurus is not as good as that of Tyrannosaurus and Lion King, it has so many sharp horn spines all over its body that it can fight with the former 2 without losing the wind. These fierce dragons are all the royal branch of the dragon clan, and there are several dragons roaring in the mountains not far away, which indicates that they will probably not be weaker than these 3 fierce dragons. Moreover, there are obviously other prehistoric beasts in the mountains that can fight against the fierce dragon, and Xiao Chen has vaguely seen several behemoths. What are they doing? Why are they gathered here? Xiao Chen was full of doubts. Yeah, KK jumped onto Xiao Chen's shoulder, pointing forward with a small animal claw, as if expressing her opinion. Xiao Chen found that it was referring to the midair. He was very surprised and asked, KK, why are you referring to the air? There are no flying giant birds or pterosaurs there. Kiki blinked her big eyes, and kept pointing in the air with a, yee-ya. KK, what are you doing? Xiao Chen was puzzled. Kiki felt that her efforts were wasted, and angrily pulled Xiao Chen's lock of long hair with her little animal claws, then jumped off his shoulder and ran to the side of the three skeletons. Xiao Chen shook his head inexplicably, but at this moment he suddenly found an incomparably majestic mountain floating in the air, a holy mountain with endless vicissitudes and a long-lasting aura. Xiao Chen was taken aback. How could this happen? However, when he stood up straight and looked up, the huge mountain suddenly disappeared. An angle problem. Xiao Chen started to move his feet, changed more than a dozen positions in a row, and finally saw the hazy holy mountain again. It's strange. Could it be that there is some kind of magical formation there? Otherwise, how could it have such an effect? There are only a few points in the same area that can be seen. It was a holy mountain that shocked Xiao Chen deeply. It was so magnificent that one had to look up at it even standing on the stump of a 1,500-meter-high sky-reaching ancient tree. There is mist and mist, there is no vegetation, no birds and beasts, and it can be felt from a distance, and there is a dead silence there. Many dilapidated and magnificent monuments can be seen, and there are majestic and magnificent palaces. It may be because of 2 long years that some magnificent buildings have collapsed. The holy mountain is majestic and majestic. From the halfway up the mountain, there are ancient broken palaces all the way up, exuding the atmosphere of vicissitudes and death, making it extremely mysterious. And those fierce dragons and wild beasts are all at the foot of the holy mountain. Obviously, they gathered here, mostly because of the holy mountain. The fog locks the holy mountain, and the roar of dragons and beasts is frightening. Xiao Chen kept moving his position on the section of the ancient wood, and found that within 100 square meters, there were only 3 points where he could see the holy mountain. Kiki, have you seen that holy mountain before? Kiki shook her head, jumped onto King Samsara's skull with a bang, and looked at the holy mountain curiously. Did these savage beasts live in this area before? Xiao Chen asked again. He wanted to know whether the prehistoric ancient beasts had arrived here recently, or had they been wandering around the holy mountain. Kiki nodded, waiting for Ruo to tell Xiao Chen that this area has always been the haunt of ancient beasts. It seems that the holy mountain didn't appear recently, these ancient beasts have known its existence for a long time. Xiao Chen couldn't help thinking, this is a sealed dragon island, and the dragons who lived on this dragon island before endless years were able to fight against the gods. In this way, those ancient and mysterious palaces on the majestic holy mountain were either built by the dragon clan back then, or they were the palaces of the ancient gods. In front of the holy mountain, there is also a tree that reaches the sky, which makes people even more imaginative. The breaking of this ancient tree that reaches the sky is probably related to the sealing of the dragons. Xiao Chen and his party climbed down the ancient tree that reached the sky, and they quietly sneaked towards the holy mountain. Of course, they bypassed those prehistoric ancient beasts far away, and they could only avoid those fierce dragons and evil beasts. However, when they bypassed a large area and approached the holy mountain hidden in the void again, they found that there were fierce beasts in every direction. Looking from a distance, a huge beast like a hill is shaking in the mountains and forests, and a fierce aura permeates the forest. It is definitely a terrifying beast that kills thousands of creatures. Xiao Chen found helplessly that they couldn't get close at all, and there were wild beasts in all directions of the holy mountain. I don't know if this little guy KK is really confused or really fearless, but he actually wants to rush over. If it wasn't for Xiao Chen's tenacious hold on it, this little beast would have already run over in a hurry. As night fell, the roar of the beasts became much less, and the mountains shook violently. Many wild beasts roared and left there, returning to their nests. The moonlight was like water. Xiao Chen and the others started to act. It was rare to have such an opportunity. He decided to approach the holy mountain at night. The forest in this mountain was very sparse, and the area without vegetation was as hard as a rock trampled by savage beasts. Ahead, the majestic holy mountain appears and disappears from time to time. The bright moonlight shines down, and the nearby mountains seem to be covered with a hazy veil. Roar! A loud roar sounded suddenly, almost deafening Xiao Chen's ears. The leaves flew wildly among the mountains, and endless fierce aura came out. The Lion King dragon has not left yet, facing the holy mountain, roaring at the moon. The light yellow light all over his body has almost turned into a dazzling golden light, and the endless smell of blood permeates the air. Obviously this is the hostility that accompanies him after killing countless souls. It seemed that it wanted to rush towards the holy mountain, and after roaring continuously, it rushed out fiercely, as if the sky and the earth were shaking, and the nearby mountains were trembling. The gigantic Lion King dragon crashed into the endless forests, shining golden light, and rushed up to the holy mountain, but suddenly the roar of the dragon disappeared, and the Lion King dragon suddenly disappeared. The 50-meter-long Dragon King seemed to have evaporated out of thin air. Deathly silence. The Lion King dragon disappeared without a trace, as if it had broken into an unknown world. Chapter 73 Imminent Hell. Everything seemed so weird and terrifying. You must know that the Lion King dragon has unmatched combat power, and it disappeared without a sound, as if it didn't even have time to struggle. The three skeletons seem to have a telepathy, and the lotus brand on the forehead bone dances like a flame, and they scan their surroundings vigilantly, ready to fight. KK even jumped directly onto King Qinguang's skull. Her body as white as jade actually shone with rays of light, and her big bright eyes stared at the holy mountain without blinking. An incomparably evil aura diffused from the holy place, covering the endless primitive mountain forest. The holy mountain became more ethereal and ethereal, even if standing at the correct point, even if the bright moon was hanging in the sky. The majestic holy mountain in front of it also became hazy, as if shrouded in a dense fog that could not be dispelled. The breath emanating from the holy mountain made people feel very uncomfortable, as if they were in a gloomy place full of floating corpses, making people feel chills running down their backs. Kiki's snow-white fur stood on end, and with a whoosh, she rushed forward, and her target was the terrifying holy mountain in front of her. Xiao Chen hurriedly chased after. The three skeletons looked at each other and followed. But Kiki's speed was so fast that Xiao Chen couldn't catch up for a while. Fortunately, KK stopped at the foot of the holy mountain, and Xiao Chen grabbed the fluffy, little snowball. It was rare that it didn't show its teeth and claws, and still quietly looked at the holy mountain in front of it. There are 7 or 8 huge stone monuments, 50 or 60 meters high, standing at the foot of the mountain, casting large shadows on the ground, extremely eerie. The lifeless huge steel is engraved with images of fierce dragons, and the carvings are extremely vivid. Tyrannosaurus Rex, Lion King Dragon, Stegosaurus, Brontosaurus, all appeared. At the foot of the mountain, there is no need to change positions, and the holy mountain covered in clouds and mist can be seen at every point. When he got here, Xiao Chen couldn't help walking forward, although he knew it might be very dangerous, but the desire to explore the unknown made him walk involuntarily. Advance 20 meters and I will return. He reminded himself like this. He really wanted to know why the Lion King dragon became silent in an instant, and he wanted to see what secrets there were on the holy mountain. 1 meter, 2 meters, 10 meters. Xiao Chen has been advancing for 20 meters, but still nothing happened. Of course, the distance of 20 meters is only a little higher than the foot of the mountain for the holy mountain. There is no vegetation on the holy mountain at all, and the hole is black and red, as if it has been soaked in blood. Not far ahead appeared the first ancient and mysterious huge palace, standing there majestically, full of vicissitudes of time, giving people the feeling of infinite time. At the same time, due to the deathly silence on the holy mountain and an indescribable aura, the huge palace seemed a little strange. 20 meters, 25 meters, 30 meters. Xiao Chen has been deeply attracted, forgetting his 20-meter bottom line, and really wants to enter that ancient palace that may collapse at any time to take a look. Just 20 meters away from the majestic palace, Xiao Chen suddenly felt as if he had stepped into an abyss. The surrounding moonlight disappeared in an instant, and dead silence enveloped him in an instant. He felt as if he was sinking into hell. However, in a short moment, a brilliant light suddenly burst out from the endless darkness. Xiao Chen was surrounded by the bright light, and then was pulled towards the bright zone. Xiao Chen felt his back was breaking out in cold sweat, and in an instant he returned to the holy mountain full of moonlight. What happened just now? He found that his body was still shrouded in a hazy light, and not far behind him, KK was sitting on King Qinguang's head, waving his little paws, wrapping him with divine light, and pulling him back. It was Kiki who saved him. Backing back 5 or 6 meters in a row, Xiao Chen came to the side of the 3 skeletons and KK. He had calmed down, but he still didn't know what happened just now. Why did he feel like he had suddenly stepped into an abyss? Kiki, what did you see just now? Kiki bared her teeth and claws on King Qinguang's head, as if describing something. What Xiao Chen saw was cloudy and foggy, not knowing why. I'll try it again. If something happens, KK, you have to be quick-witted. Although Xiao Chen felt that the place was extremely dense, he didn't feel extreme fear. He walked forward again, but this time at the place just now, nothing happened. Kiki also ran over curiously, jumping and jumping on the spot, but nothing unexpected happened. Xiao Chen tried again to advance to the ancient palace not far ahead. This time, after advancing 10 meters, he suddenly felt creepy. In an instant, he seemed to have stepped into an abyss. The silence was a little scary, without a ray of light, and he was sinking into the hell full of death. However, the divine light enveloped him first, and Xiao Chen was dragged back to the moonlight by Kiki again. Xiao Chen broke out in cold sweat, and his back felt a little chilly. He felt as if he had really gone to hell just now. He didn't dare to continue probing. He backed away slowly, took a last look at the ancient palace that was close at hand, and strode away. Go, this place is too evil, we can't stay any longer. Xiao Chen retreated resolutely. There are not many ancient palaces under the holy mountain, and the number gradually increased from the middle of the mountain. If the vicinity of every palace is so strange and terrifying, then this holy mountain is really an ominous place. A dense atmosphere filled the vicinity of the holy mountain. Xiao Chen and the others had already arrived at the foot of the mountain. Although Kiki was full of strange feelings about this huge mountain, it was rare and quiet, and did not try to break into it. At this moment, a dragon's roar piercing the sky suddenly erupted, and the trees shook wildly. In the incomparable silence, such a deafening dragon whistle suddenly sounded. It was really scary. Xiao Chen hurriedly blocked his ears to prevent the eardrum from bursting. He looked back and saw that the Lion King dragon that disappeared on the holy mountain appeared. It just appeared out of thin air near the palace just now. It was covered in golden light from top to bottom, and it jumped down from there. The huge body with a length of 50 meters was like a hill. The Lion King dragon was a little sluggish, and did not stay in place. It was surging with an extremely fierce aura, driving a bloody gust, rushing out of this mountain, and the ground trembled violently. Kiki seemed very dissatisfied with the howling of the Lion King dragon, like a very upset little beast king, growled at the back of the Lion King dragon, and even crouched down, wanting to rush out to catch up. Xiao Chen was amazed by this. This little confusion is really miraculous. Even under the mighty power of the Lion King dragon, there is no fear. If ordinary beasts would already be trembling and kneeling on the ground. After all, even the dragon clan who lost their supernatural powers is also the royal family among beasts, let alone the Lion King dragon in the branch of the dragon clan royal family. Chapter 74 Royal Family Dragon Egg. Obviously, KK may be from a rare race that is not afraid of dragons. However, Xiao Chen hastened to hold it down, and he couldn't let this little devil in the world mess around. No matter how miraculous it was just a young beast. How could it possibly fight against the Lion King dragon? KK snorted a few times in dissatisfaction, and jumped on King Yama's head. You are not allowed to do this in the future. How long have you been born? That is a wild dragon. You are such a small ball that it is not enough to fit people's teeth. When you grow up, go and show off your power. You can't mess around now. Yee, Kiki protested angrily, waving the little beast's paw fiercely. But it looks even more cute, with big bright eyes flickering, and a fluffy body shining with jade light. It can be called a little beast with the aura of Zhang Tiandi. It is no longer possible to go exploring. There are far more than one ancient palace on the holy mountain. It is too evil there, and Xiao Chen doesn't want to lose his life here. Looking back at the majestic holy mountain that was deeply locked by clouds and mist, and the looming mysterious palace exuding endless vicissitudes and dead silence, they walked to the distance. Suddenly, Xiao Chen heard the sound of rustling from the distant forest, and a stench rushed towards his face. He hurriedly took Kiki and the three skeletons to the nearby forest. Under the bright moonlight, a terrifying giant came quickly, shining golden light under the moonlight. It turned out to be a 10-meter-long golden giant centipede. It can be as thick as a water tank, and poison pervades its surroundings. Not long ago, Xiao Chen had seen this centipede in a swamp, and unexpectedly, it was also attracted by the historic site of the holy mountain. Xiao Chen didn't want to confront it. Probably even if the fierce dragon confronted it, he would make a detour. Click, click, the terrifying savage poisonous insect moved its legs together, and everything it passed, whether it was the ground or hard rocks, was torn apart by its knife-sharp centipedes. Rustle, a similar sound came from another forest not far away, and Xiao Chen felt goosebumps all over his body. If there are similar horrible poisonous insects, then this place is really a bad place. Go, Xiao Chen rushed to the distance first. Poisonous insects like to come and go at night. God knows if there will be evil insects like giant scorpions and ancient gnats here. Although the strength of poisonous insects is not as strong as that of savage dragons, their toxicity is extremely terrifying, and they are the most difficult to deal with. Xiao Chen and the others quickly escaped for several miles, and came to the broken root of the Tongtian ancient tree, and then stopped. When I came here, I finally didn't have that kind of evil feeling, and there was no roar of evil beasts at night, and the hazy moonlight made this area look harmonious and peaceful. In the early morning, the birds twittered and the refreshing fragrance of flowers swayed in the wind. A little bit of morning glow. This piece of verdant and green mountain forest is inlaid with golden borders, and the tulle-like mist gradually dissipates. It was a sunny morning, and the mountains were full of vitality. Beside a sweet spring, Xiao Chen began to prepare breakfast for himself after washing, while thinking about the next action. There are so many prehistoric beasts near the holy mountain, how could they enter the treasure mountain and return empty-handed? He felt that at least one dragon egg must be found. Seeing Xiao Chen eating the tender and smooth barbecue, KK trotted out of the place where the tempting meat was located, out of sight and out of mind. The three skeletons are still cultivating, and the lotus imprint on their foreheads is shining brightly, and their bones are becoming more and more like white jade. In the morning, Xiao Chen took three skeletons and haunted the nearby mountains. He was pleasantly surprised to find the lairs of 7 or 8 fierce dragons, and there were dragon eggs in those valleys. Is this the season of dragon breeding? He suddenly thought that the companion dragon king and the ancestor dragon will appear, and the dragons in this area are obviously rare high-ranking dragons, and there must be a companion dragon king among them. Throughout the morning, neither the fierce dragon nor the ancient beast appeared in front of the holy mountain. After Xiao Chen finished observing and exploring, he returned to practice at the broken root of the Tongtian ancient tree. It wasn't until the afternoon that the sound of the dragon's roar sounded in front of the mysterious giant mountain, and Xiao Chen began to prepare for action. We're getting out of here. According to the plan in advance, Xiao Chen assigned tasks to the three skeletons respectively. They would enter the 3 dragon valleys and steal a dragon egg each. And he himself will enter the Lion King dragon's lair, steal a golden dragon egg, and then gather at the broken root of the ancient wood. The dragon eggs of the rare high-ranking dragons are extremely rare. Although there are 2 to 3 eggs in each lair, it is enough for you to take only one. You must leave a glimmer of life in everything, and you must not let the branch of the Dragon King line be broken. The fire of the souls of the 3 skeletons kept beating in their eye sockets. If there were eyeballs, they would probably have rolled their eyes already. What about stealing dragon eggs and saying, leave a chance, really? Then they started their own actions and entered the mountain forest one after another. The Lion King dragon's lair was built in a lush valley. Except for the hard rock where it was trampled on, the other areas were not destroyed, and the vegetation was clear and full of vitality. And the 2 golden dragon eggs were hidden among the flowers and trees, well hidden. The dragon eggs do not need a female dragon to hatch. The rich vegetation has not been destroyed. The golden dragon eggs are as big as millstones. The eggshells are crystal clear and shimmering brightly. They look extraordinarily magical among the fragrant flowers and plants. The surrounding flowers and plants are all extraordinary because of the existence of the 2 dragon eggs, and the brilliance flows. This is the dragon egg of the most powerful Lion King dragon. Xiao Chen estimated that among the 2 dragon eggs, there might be an accompanying dragon king. Even the 2-headed dragon king. He picked up a golden dragon egg that shone with divine light, increased his speed to the limit, and rushed out of the valley. If the Lion King dragon returned, even if he had 10 lives, he would not be enough to kill it. Soon, the 3 skeletons also returned successfully, and the mysterious dragon eggs were shining brightly. How could the fierce dragon think that someone was so daring? He usually said that wild animals dare not approach their lairs, even birds dare not fly over them. Their lairs are forbidden places for all insects and beasts, so there is no need to worry. What King Qinguang brought back was the dragon egg of the Tyrannosaurus rex. The crystal blue dragon egg was dotted with divine light, which was as eye-catching as a blue moon. What King Yama brought back were the dragon eggs of the Stegosaurus. The jasper-like eggshells glowed with intoxicating light, really like psychic emeralds. The King of Reincarnation brought back the dragon egg of the Thunder Dragon, which was surrounded by purple brilliance, and the giant egg was extremely magnificent, as if carved from a purple diamond. In addition to the golden dragon eggs brought back by Xiao Chen, the 4 dragon eggs are placed together, and the light is really dazzling. Shenhui reflects the brilliance here. Chapter 75 Entering the Snow Mountain. KK also came over, blinking her big bright eyes, as if she understood something, picked up a giant tree that was out of proportion to her body, and chased and beat King Qinguang. Hey, KK, stop making trouble. Xiao Chen hurriedly stopped her. Kiki dropped the giant tree, took off her treasure tree hat, and pointed at the 3 skeletons with a small animal claw, as if silently accusing them of their crimes. The 3 skeletons once stole its treasure tree, causing it to starve for several days. The 3 skeletons, Kaba Kaba, opened their jaws together. They didn't expect to steal the dragon egg today, which brought back Kiki's memories. In the end, they unanimously pointed the bone fingers at Xiao Chen. Okay, I want to vent my anger on them, and we'll talk about it later. Now, we must leave here quickly. Xiao Chen didn't want to get burned, so he picked up the golden dragon egg and left first. In the dense old forest, Xiao Chen and his party crossed the mountains and ridges, carefully avoiding all kinds of beasts, and their speed has been raised to the limit. Xiao Chen knew that in a short time, there would be great chaos near the holy mountain, and the 4 high-ranking dragons would definitely go mad, and there would be no peace for dozens of miles around. In the extreme escape, Kiki was the most relaxed. It jumped up and down on the 4 crystal-clear dragon eggs, and the gorgeous divine brilliance made it shine. Xiao Chen and the others didn't dare to stop for a moment. They ran westward for tens of miles, had passed through the dead forest, and stopped to rest when they were approaching the Sea of Dead Bones. In the silent forest, the 4 dragon eggs are shining brightly, only Kiki is still happy, jumping up and down on the dragon eggs. Ah! There was a looming roar of a dragon, and then from the direction of the holy mountain, there were successive roars of dragons and beasts. Although they were far away, they could still be faintly heard. One could imagine the chaos around the holy mountain. You can't stay here. Xiao Chen was afraid of some fierce dragons chasing him down, and because there were cultivators haunting the Sea of Bones, he decided to go all the way west. Xiao Chen and the others didn't stop when they passed through the Sea of Dead Bones, they walked directly through the dead forest next to them. Running quickly to the west, there is a continuous snow mountain in the west, which can be seen clearly from here. It was nothing short of a miracle on the hot and humid Dragon Island. Taking this opportunity, Xiao Chen happened to go and see what happened. Quick, let's enter the mysterious snow mountain, it is the safest. The continuous snow-capped mountains are in the west, the Sea of Dead Bones is in the middle, and the mysterious Holy Mountain is in the east. The 3 areas are connected in a straight line, separated by dead forests. After walking through the silent old forest, and then passing through several vibrant mountain forests, Xiao Chen and the others finally came to the front of the snow mountain. This is not an illusion. There is really a continuous snow mountain in front of you. The pure white snowflakes are fluttering in the wind, and the cold breath rushes towards you. Kiki was full of curiosity about the snow-capped mountains. Looking at the snow-capped world, she let out a cheer, and was the first to rush to the snow-capped mountains. It rolled happily in the snow, and its fluffy snow-white body could almost be mixed in the snowdrifts without being noticed. Xiao Chen and the others took the dragon eggs and strode into the snow. The temperature dropped sharply, the breath out of their mouths had turned white, and the cold wind with snowflakes was blowing in front of them. Looking back at the lush green world hundreds of meters behind them, it really made people feel like a lifetime away. The climate was so unreasonable. On the outskirts of the dead forest, many alliances gathered here. Among the beautiful mountain peaks full of aura, and in front of the waterfalls and ancient caves surrounded by the essence of heaven and earth, there are young strong men practicing. On this wild dragon island, strength is the last word, and only if one's own strength is strong enough can he survive better. Today, Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo, and Wang Tong who had disappeared for many days returned, breaking the tranquility of many days. The masters they took away all disappeared, and only the 3 of them returned, causing an uproar. Could it be that they fought fiercely with Xiao Chen? At this moment, Yan Qingcheng was in a valley of flowers. Mango is not an unknown flower tree, the fresh and tender green leaves set off the colorful flowers, and the buds are full of intoxicating fragrance. Yan Qingcheng was dressed in purple, ethereal and elegant that couldn't be described in the flowers and trees, her whole body was hazy and unreal, like an exiled fairy coming to the dust, full of aura. The beauty of the closed moon and shy flowers made the surrounding delicate and beautiful flowers lose their brilliance. Not far from her, Curse Master Rand sat on the bluestone, his long blonde hair was a little messy, and this handsome man like the sun was no longer as conceited as he used to be. The battle with Xiao Chen ended in a disastrous defeat, which hit him hard. However, he did not give up on himself. He practiced diligently during the process of recuperating, trying to condense his spiritual consciousness in order to become stronger. He slowly revealed how Xiao Chen killed the 3 major alliances by means of thunder a few days ago. What? Yan Qingcheng's jade body emitted rays of divine light, which shattered the surrounding flowers and trees, her beautiful face was full of anger, and her soft and tall chest heaved violently. Xiao Chen actually wiped out all the people left behind in the 3 major alliances overnight. Rand nodded bitterly, and said, yes, except for me recovering from injuries in this flower valley, the rest of the people have been eliminated. After a long time, Yan Qingcheng sighed helplessly, and said, this time it's really. I, Kai Luo, and Wang Tong saw the purple dragon king again, but it was a pity that we suffered heavy losses and still did not keep him. The people who went out were almost wiped out, and the remaining members of the alliance were all wiped out by Xiao Chen, which really drives people crazy. Is that the purple dragon king that looks like a unicorn? Rand was moved. When the purple dragon king first appeared, there was a lot of uproar. But not long after, the Dragon Island underwent a shocking change, and the divine light sealed the island, diverting people's attention. Yes, it's just a young Dragon King, and you three masters couldn't take it down. Rand was surprised. His handsome but pale face gradually turned red, and he said agitatedly, "The legend is true. When they grow up, even the gods will tremble. If they can be subdued. If Kai Luo and Wang Tong, myself, and our cultivation bases are more refined, we may be able to subdue it together." Yan Qingcheng was full of regret. "There will be opportunities in the future," Rand said hopefully. After Kai Luo and Wang Tong returned, they couldn't find anyone in their alliance. After learning the secret from other people, both of them almost went crazy. Xiao Chen was too strong, actually wiped out the troops they left behind so cleanly, really decisive and resolute. On this day, all the alliance powerhouses in this area heard the roar of anger. It was the roar of being mad with anger. Chapter 76. The area in the center of the island immediately became lively, and many alliances were looking forward to it. People believed that a big battle was inevitable, and it was impossible for Kai Luo and Wang Tong to let Xiao Chen go. Before Kyla came to Dragon Island, he was already well known in the Western tribe, and he was a genius illusionist of the younger generation of the Western tribe. And Wang Tong is the successor of Shaoli Fidao, who was turned pale by the cultivators, and he also has a great background. As for Xiao Chen, although he was not well known before, his recent performance in Dragon Island can only be described as strong and terrifying. The next duel will definitely be a fight between dragons and tigers. As for Yan Qingcheng, she had long had a death interaction with Xiao Chen, and no one dared to underestimate her status as an immortal heir. For a while, there was an undercurrent. And on this day, news of the Purple Dragon King also spread. Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo, and Wang Tong led the crowd to besiege the young Zilong King, and encountered a strong counterattack. The young companion Dragon King was extremely miraculous, and killed all the weaker people in the process of breaking through. Although Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo, and Wang Tong teamed up to severely damage the young Zilong King, they still failed to keep him. This news caused an uproar. The purpose of everyone coming to Long Island was to compete for the Dragon King. After the Dragon King grew up, the gods would tremble. If you can keep it by your side when it is young, then the future will be like a dream. Of course, the most powerful one is Zulong, it is the king among kings. The young strong men had already heard before coming to Dragon Island that the sealed Dragon Island might be unsealed because of the ancestor dragon. Of course, that would be hundreds of years later. It would take at least decades for a young Dragon King to grow up, but it would take 10 times as long for a king among kings. The cultivators on the island are all young men and women. Although it is impossible for them to leave Dragon Island, if they can get a little Dragon King, then in the years to come, they will be invincible on this prehistoric island, and there are huge waves in everyone's heart. And at this sensitive moment, someone revealed the news that Xiao Chen and the 3 skeletons were seen walking westward through the dead forest holding 4 dragon eggs that shimmered in the sun. This news undoubtedly made people very surprised. What exactly did Xiao Chen want to do? How dare he steal a dragon egg? Just heard the news that Yan Qingcheng and others ambushed the Zilong King, and many alliances were particularly concerned about the relevant news. Soon, someone thought that Xiao Chen stole the dragon egg in order to get the companion Dragon King. The companion Dragon King after birth, even though it was in its infancy, was already very powerful and difficult to subdue. The failure of Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo and others is a lesson from the past. Many people speculate that Xiao Chen wants to use the Dragon King cultivation plan. The dragon eggs do not need to be hatched by a female dragon. The miraculous dragon eggs will break open by themselves under the bath of the essence of heaven and earth. Many cultivators finally agreed that this is a crazy plan. If Xiao Chen knew that he was misunderstood in this way, he would definitely be dumbfounded. Raise a dragon, he is now eating a dragon. Many young strong men couldn't sit still anymore, their hearts were on fire, and many people wished to find Xiao Chen immediately to understand the situation. Even, many people want to follow Xiao Chen's example and steal dragon eggs, but this is undoubtedly a dead end. After the eggs of the 8-armed evil dragon and snake-like dragon on the periphery of Long Island were stolen, all the fierce dragons on the periphery were already aware of the danger, and the incident of losing the dragon egg just happened inside the Dragon Island. On this day, there were several incidents of death and injury of cultivators due to stealing dragon eggs. This made the Dragon Clan even more vigilant. It is obvious that Xiao Chen's 3 shots have blocked everyone's chance. No one dared to loot the dragon's nest anymore, but all people have selfish desires. Thinking of the power and miraculousness of the Dragon King, no one could be indifferent, and everyone began to change their minds. Finally, someone thought, if they rob Xiao Chen, the danger will be much less relatively speaking, but the same goal can be achieved. For a while, people's hearts fluttered. Monk Yijun was a little worried and wanted to send a letter to Xiao Chen, but he couldn't find him. Monk Yijun knows that if someone instigates it now, there will probably be a large number of people looking for Xiao Chen to snatch the dragon eggs. If that is the case, no matter how strong Xiao Chen is, he will be in danger. On the second day, Yi Jun's worry came true, and many people were already incited to go after Xiao Chen and snatch the dragon egg. Among them, Yared, the strong man of the forest tribe, played an important role in this turmoil, fueling the flames behind everyone. Yi Jun guessed that Yan Qingcheng, the descendant of immortality, Kai Luo, the illusionist, and Wang Tong, the descendant of Xiao Li Fidao, must also be behind the scenes. After all, they have just suffered a big loss. However, all cultivators who set foot on Long Island are not simple roles. How could many young strong men not know that someone is secretly promoting it? As a result, many people suggested that since a battle between Kai Luo, Wang Tong and Xiao Chen is inevitable, it is better to start as soon as possible, and everyone will go with them to witness their fair and open settlement of grievances. Many people coveted the dragon eggs in Xiao Chen's hands, and they wanted to use such an excuse to fish in troubled waters, and push Kai Luo, Wang Tong and others ahead, which was a good move. Kai Luo, Wang Tong and the others were not worried. Originally they were going to fight with Xiao Chen, but now mobilizing so many cultivators is entirely for building momentum. Using the mentality of everyone coveting dragon eggs to gather such a force will put huge pressure on Xiao Chen. In the end, even if they didn't do anything, these people might not be able to help but snatch the dragon eggs, even though they were all acting fair now. Some cultivators from many alliances have participated in this operation privately. Of course, it seems that there is no problem on the surface. Everyone is going to witness a decisive battle, but many people are not interested in drinking. The crowd walked through the dead primitive old forest, and soon came to the place where the snowflakes were flying. Everyone was amazed by this spectacle, and they temporarily stopped in front of the snow mountain. At this time, nearly 100 people gathered in front of the snow mountain, and more people were still coming here. Of course, those who are greedy are only a small number of people after all, and most of the people who came later came purely to watch the battle, because Xiao Chen's reputation is too strong recently. Almost all the alliances who heard the news came here. In the morning of the snow-capped mountains, although there is sunshine, it is also extremely cold. On a snow peak, KK happily rolled around. She was not afraid of the cold, and the soft snow was as comfortable as a soft bed for her. The three skeletons and Xiao Chen were all in the ice cave, and they were all cultivating wholeheartedly. The golden light makes this ice cave dazzling. After repeated refraction, the radiance sprinkles on the snow outside, making this ice and snow world shrouded in sunshine and incomparably beautiful. The life energy contained in the Lion King dragon's egg is really strong and thick. The gorgeous golden light is like water waves, pouring into Xiao Chen's body continuously. After a night of absorption, the golden light gradually dimmed. The Zhongjing acupoint on Xiao Chen's right shoulder is like a bottomless pit, voluntarily depriving the huge essence of life, and all the golden rays of light are concentrated in one direction like hundreds of rivers converging into the sea. Finally, a bright spot of light was condensed, and the Zhongjing point on the right shoulder was deified. This result did not exceed Xiao Chen's expectations. Shangqiu point on left foot, Shangqiu point on right foot, Zongding point on chest, Zhongjing point on left shoulder, Zhongjing point on right shoulder. Xiao Chen's 5 big points all over his body have condensed into bright spots of light, completely deified. There seems to be some kind of connection between the 5 great acupoints, and the life essence flows slowly between the 5 acupoints, making Xiao Chen strongly feel the majesty of life energy in his body. Xiao Chen felt that he seemed to have 2 lives now. The exuberant life essence made his skin glow with brilliance. Looking inside, he found that the flesh and bones were filled with rays of light, as if they had undergone some tempering, shining with the brilliance of life. Every inch of skin was full of strength, and his body seemed to be made of fine steel. Xiao Chen vaguely felt reborn. Chapter 77. Now Xiao Chen feels as if he has an indestructible body like a diamond, and the power is surging with every gesture, as if he can destroy all obstacles. And the body became more light and agile, and the body moved freely, as fast as lightning, leaving afterimages in the ice cave. However, Xiao Chen sighed, and his cultivation base has been raised to the peak of the 5th level of the mortal realm, but it seems that he has reached a bottleneck and it is difficult to cross this level. The main gain this time is a substantial increase in physical strength and agility. Xiao Chen deeply realized that the improvement of his cultivation requires his own hard work to break through, and everything else can only be used as an aid. Xiao Chen walked out of the ice cave, stood on the top of the snow, faced the morning glow, and felt the tranquility in the ice and snow. At this moment, his mind was surprisingly peaceful. There are thousands of rays of sunlight, shining on the white snow, and the auspicious colors flowing on the top of the mountain. At this moment, Xiao Chen suddenly had a sense of enlightenment. The sun rises and sets, and yin and yang cycle back and forth. The morning glow is gorgeous, full of vitality, the sun is blazing, and it is at its peak, and the sunset is late, and it declines to the end. This is a reincarnation. However, the sunset is not a complete end. After the darkness, the sun will rise again and start a new cycle. Xiao Chen was infinitely inspired. Vitality, prosperity, and decline are the eternal reincarnation that applies to everything. Recently, Xiao Chen's heartstrings have been tense, requiring him to constantly break through, forming a huge pressure, which is no longer his motivation to move forward. It's like going from a heyday to a decline. The pressure has become a resistance. It is his own heart that traps him. Everything in the world, yin and yang reciprocate, there is no eternal peak. He has sealed himself up. This is the reason why it is difficult for him to break through when he is clearly at the peak of the fifth heaven of the metamorphosis state. He needs to relax himself completely, let the sunset pass as soon as possible, and start a new vitality instead of resisting in the dark. At this moment, Xiao Chen seemed to be completely enlightened, completely relaxed, opened his heart, let his thoughts wander in the void, traveled among the 4 seas and 5 mountains, soared in front of the 9 heavens palace, and put aside all thoughts about cultivation. Let the complicated thoughts become simple, let the mist gradually blow away, let the wisdom tower shine. At this moment, Xiao Chen's whole person becomes extremely ethereal. Standing quietly on the snow peak facing the morning glow, he has already integrated into the nature of the world. The essence of heaven and earth pierced through the top and came out through the body. The endless aura blended in Xiao Chen's relaxed body, and his body and mind were in a strange state. Then his body was shaken violently, and there was a rumbling thunder, bursting out a brilliant light. Although Xiao Chen was wandering in the void, he clearly felt the changes in himself, and he actually made a breakthrough in this situation. Cultivate hard, make no progress, turn back leisurely, but break through the barriers of cultivation and advance to a new field. He successfully broke into the 6th heaven of the realm of transformation. The light on his body gradually faded away. Xiao Chen's heart is very calm, there is no wave in the ancient well, and he is still in that ethereal state, but he has realized something. The morning sun is gorgeous, the positive sun is blazing, and the setting sun is late. Vitality, prosperity, and decline are not limited to natural changes in cultivation. This reincarnation applies to everything. Life is like a dream, joys and sorrows, who can sing all the way? The vicissitudes of life, the changing times, who can stop it? An epiphany is better than years of penance. This transformation, for Xiao Chen, is of great significance. This is a clear understanding of the soul, and he has a new understanding along the way of cultivation. Many alliances gathered in the snow-capped mountains, and more than 400 people rushed here. Most of them came to watch the battle, but many came for dragon eggs. Everyone went deep into the snow mountain, and finally found Xiao Chen's trace. Looking up at Xiao Chen on the top of the snow mountain, many people were surprised. In the morning glow, Xiao Chen was surrounded by faint radiance, setting him off in a sacred and peaceful way, just like a god who is about to break through the sky. Some people were so impatient that they yelled directly after discovering Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, where is the dragon egg you stole privately? The dragon eggs on Dragon Island belong to everyone. ... This kind of clumsy excuse made many spectators blush for them, but the dozens of people in front did not have this kind of awareness at all. Many people had already started running, rushing towards Shifeng. Before Yan Qingcheng, Kai Luo, Wang Tong and others could make a move, these people couldn't wait any longer and rushed to be the first, but the dinosaur egg fell into the hands of others. Dozens of cultivators shouted together and rushed up to the middle of Shifeng Mountain. Many of the hundreds of people in the rear felt that these people who coveted the dragon eggs were too shameless, and there were many discussions behind them. How can people be so shameless? The fall of human nature. What is this? Maybe there will be more excessive things in the future. No matter how tyrannical Xiao Chen is, he can't fight against so many people. ... The shout from below woke Xiao Chen up from the ethereal realm, and he felt very angry when he understood what was going on. What's so scary about him who has just broken into the 6th heaven of metamorphosis? If you want to come, just come. Suddenly, Xiao Chen's body burst into 5 dazzling rays of light, as if trying to communicate with the rising sun in the east. A few huge dragon shadows rushed out from his deified big holes, completely formed by the condensed radiance of divine light. The light was extremely dazzling. The silver 8-armed evil dragon, the dark green serpentine dragon, the jasper-like stegosaurus, the golden lion king dragon, the huge dragon shadows circled and danced around Xiao Chen, sending out deafening roars. Incomparably huge, light and textured savage dragon. Everyone below was stunned and couldn't believe their eyes. Xiao Chen himself was also puzzled, not knowing why such a strange thing happened. 3 skeletons rushed out of the ice cave, opening and closing their jaws in astonishment. Kiki was also full of curiosity, blinking her bright eyes and wandering around Xiao Chen. The roar of the dragon pierced through the sky, and the huge light and shadow continued to fly in the air, setting off Xiao Chen like a god, like a demon. Boom! There was a deafening noise in the snow-capped mountains, and a terrible avalanche occurred on the mountain where Xiao Chen was. Like thousands of horses galloping, like the raging sea roaring, the white snow waves roared down from the mountain. The peak was unharmed, dragon shadows flew around Xiao Chen, his whole body was dancing with blazing flames, and he calmly looked down at everything below. This is a catastrophe, completely caused by Long Xiao. At this moment Xiao Chen is almost a demon. The cultivators in the rear increased their speed to the limit, rushed up to the opposite snow peak, and looked at the rolling white waves below in shock. The dozens of people who coveted the dragon egg earlier and wanted to rush to the peak to snatch the dragon egg, even the magic masters and spirits who were able to fly, were all buried under the deep snow before they could rush up. The big avalanche was too sudden. They were halfway up the mountain, and the avalanche happened directly around them. There was no time to react. The white snow waves almost filled up the valley below. Everyone was dumbfounded. It was simply too scary. Xiao Chen alone killed dozens of cultivators in the sea of snow. Chapter 78. The biting cold wind made Xiao Chen's clothes flutter. His long black hair fluttered wildly with the wind. His handsome face like a knife was full of sternness, and the light shining from his eyes was as sharp as a knife's edge. At this moment, Xiao Chen's tall and burly figure was deeply imprinted in everyone's minds. Almost a demon, almost a demon. God, what did I see? Terrible. Shenlong bodyguard, incredible. ... There was a hustle and bustle on the opposite snow peak. Among the cultivators trapped on Dragon Island, not only Xiao Chen is practicing diligently to improve his cultivation, but everyone else is also advancing by leaps and bounds. This is due to the huge pressure of survival. Failure to make progress means death, because everyone knows that strength is the only way to live better on Dragon Island. Recently, almost all cultivators are making progress, not just Xiao Chen alone. Everyone has done a lot more hard work than before. When people saw Xiao Chen's body surrounded by dragon shadows, they were still a little frustrated. This miraculous scene made them think of how great Xiao Chen's progress was. However, it seemed that they were thinking too much, because even Xiao Chen himself didn't know why this happened. The shadow of the savage dragon lingering around Xiao Chen had disappeared. He didn't know why the situation happened just now, because when he tried again, the actinic savage dragon no longer appeared. Xiao Chen thought about it silently, and felt that it should be the total release of the powerful energy accumulated after breaking into the 6th heaven of the mortal state. After his breakthrough in cultivation, he remained in an ethereal state until he was enraged by those people, and the dragon force hidden in the deified acupoints was aroused by his emotional fluctuations, which caused the miraculous scene just now. He has always known clearly that sooner or later the acupoints will show their power after being deified. This may be an early manifestation of the supernatural powers they will have in the future. Xiao Chen and many cultivators stood on 2 snow peaks. They looked at each other from the air. Suddenly, the sky and the earth became quiet. The morning sun fell on the snow peaks, and the energy of the sky and the earth was slowly flowing. The tense noise just now gradually became peaceful. Xiao Chen handed over the dragon egg. A sudden shout sounded. Obviously it was a gun, ordered by someone, and then the same words sounded from other directions in the crowd, and there were 7 or 8 voices inciting. Xiao Chen's gaze was like a torch, and the 2 snow peaks were very close to each other. He clearly captured a few faces, 3 from the natural alliance created by the forest powerhouse Arod, and 3 from the Treeman Valley alliance created by the royal goddess Zhao Liner. Obviously, what they were planning was not a dragon egg. The purpose of Yalad and Zhao Liner was to incite everyone to deal with Xiao Chen. Everyone has blindness. Although most people are rational, there are still a small number of people who are encouraged to follow along and clamor. Hand over the dragon egg. Dragon eggs belong to everyone. Don't try to keep it for yourself. With a wave of Xiao Chen's right hand, a huge light palm completely condensed by divine light rushed into the ice cave behind, grabbed the shattered Lion King dragon egg, and then threw it violently towards the opposite mountain peak. After the golden eggshell was infused with vitality, it burst into a radiant light, emitting a dazzling golden light, flying down to the opposite snow peak like a meteor shower. This is the dragon egg you want. I have already eaten it for breakfast. If you want it, you can go to the dragon's nest to get it yourself. Why do you want to get it for nothing? The crystal clear eggshell is like beautiful jade. Although it is not as dazzling as when it is intact, there is still brilliance circulating, and it is indescribably miraculous. It is a rare treasure at a glance. Everyone was obviously stunned by Xiao Chen's words. This person must be too reckless, he actually ate the dragon egg. This is really speechless. He waited for Ruo to eat a future dragon. Soon, everyone believed that Xiao Chen was not lying. The shattering of the dragon egg was not due to the birth of the little dragon, but was broken artificially, because the crystal clear jade shell was still stained with frozen egg white. Everyone has the urge to vomit blood. This Xiao Chen is driving people crazy. To eat dragon eggs as a meal, even the gods don't have such a luxury. Xiao Chen, you bastard. Xiao Chen, you are too much. ... Some people even scolded, prodigal son, I really hate it. Dragon eggs. It was eaten for breakfast. I risked my life to get the dragon egg. How to enjoy it is of course up to me. If you want to eat it, you can get it yourself. The crowd was so irritated that even those who didn't come here for the dragon eggs would vomit blood. Who wants to eat? This guy actually thought that everyone came here because they wanted to eat dragon eggs, and everyone agreed that Xiao Chen did it on purpose, deliberately hitting everyone. Xiao Chen, you are such a bastard. Xiao Chen, you think you are a god, eating dragon eggs for food. ... There was an uproar on the opposite Shifeng, and at this time, Yarrow and Zhao Liner's people began to stir up everyone's emotions. Yesterday someone discovered that Xiao Chen didn't just get a dragon egg, there must be another in the ice cave behind him. Let him hand over the remaining dragon eggs. Hand over the dragon egg, it belongs to everyone, it belongs to everyone. ... Xiao Chen turned his head and said to the three skeletons behind him, take the dragon eggs and retreat, and head into the depths of the snow mountain. Even though he didn't have a Dragon King cultivation plan before, he couldn't help thinking about it now that he was forced by everyone. The three skeletons didn't move, they stood there silently looking at him. Xiao Chen shook his head and said, I don't need you here, if I want to retreat, no one can stop me. The main thing is that we can't let the dragon eggs we have worked so hard to get be taken away by others. The three skeletons didn't hesitate any longer, the light of the soul came out from the body, and the bones of the body were crystal clear, flowing like precious jade. They rushed into the ice cave quickly, and then hugged the radiant dragon egg, directly broke the ice wall from the other side, and rushed towards the back of the snow peak. KK, get out of here too. Xiao Chen shouted to KK who was rolling around in the snow behind him. Kiki didn't feel the tense atmosphere of the coming war at all, and played like an innocent child, shaking her head like a fat little snowman, blinking her big bright eyes and looking at Xiao Chen. Kiki, don't you want to eat something delicious? Don't you want your round belly to dissipate? Yeah, KK lowered her head angrily, then her fat body curled up into a ball, like a snowball, she rolled down the snow peak and chased after the three skeletons. The people on the opposite snow peak only saw the three skeletons enter the ice cave, but they didn't know that they had retreated from the back. Let's go together, there is no hesitation. The person in the dark began to instigate again. But no one took the first step. After all, the avalanche just now was too shocking. If it happened again, it would be too worthless to die. There is nothing to be afraid of. There has been an avalanche just now, and the floating snow has already fallen. Let's rush up together. Finally someone took the first step. Someone took the first step, and someone took the second step. Dozens of people quickly rushed to the Shifeng where Xiao Chen was. For such a group of people, Xiao Chen knew that it was useless to say anything, everyone understood what was going on, and there was only one word to solve them, and that was, kill. He stared coldly at the rushing cultivators, his sharp blade-like eyes swept over everyone, but he did not find Yan Qingcheng and the others. Chapter 79 The Trembling Fierce Battle. The provocative people were still clamoring, but Xiao Chen quickly understood, and most of them also quickly realized that such provocations would not have much effect. How many people who can enter Dragon Island are reckless? Who would foolishly be used as a gun? Obviously those who seem to be provoked are doing this on purpose. They belong to certain alliances. The leaders of those alliances want to take this opportunity to make a move and instruct someone they trust to try Xiao Chen's strength, make the scene chaotic, kill Xiao Chen, and then the real strong will take the dragon egg. Where there are people, there are fights. Long Island is a concrete and microscopic real world. Intrigues and cruel killings are unavoidable. The human heart and human nature are complicated, and no one can truly describe them. Afraid of another avalanche, the curse masters and spiritual masters flew high in the air and rushed over first. But the miserable cry followed. Ah! Xiao Chen actually soared into the air directly, leaping up to a height of more than 10 meters, the divine flames danced all over his body, and his right leg swept out, even kicking a curse master in the middle. Blood rained down, and 2 remnants fell into the air. The incident was so sudden that no one thought that Xiao Chen's speed would be so fast, as if he was flying, and he would attack and kill a 3rd-level curse master who had transformed into a mortal realm in just one encounter. To be killed by a warrior in the air, this is an absolute shame for a curse master who can fly, but the deceased can no longer feel ashamed, and he lost his life forever because of this. Let's go together, don't be afraid of him. No matter how strong he is alone, he can't resist so many of us. Xiao Chen's eyes were cold, and he had already locked on the people who shouted. Although he knew that without their shouting, the people who should be killed would still come, but he still decided to get rid of a few people first, so as to show his determination. At this time, more than a dozen famous curse masters and spiritual masters had already flown over Xiao Chen, and nearly 24 non-flying practitioners climbed to the top of the snow, besieging Xiao Chen in it. Xiao Chen's eyes are bright, and he is not afraid. Among them, those who have reached the 3rd level of the mortal state are considered masters. Only a few people have reached the 4th level of the mortal state. If he wants to escape, he can break through smoothly. Thunder burst out of Xiao Chen's body, and a bright curtain of light appeared in front of him. The Big Dipper hung in front of him brilliantly. Xiao Chen named this curtain of light, Function. When the magic masters and spiritual masters in the sky shot down a series of divine lights, Xiao Chen soon left afterimages in the snow like meteors, avoiding the energy rage like a stormy sea. At the same time, the Function light curtain shone brilliantly, blocking all the spell energy approaching his body, and he quickly rushed to the practitioners who surrounded him on the ground. Xiao Chen had already charged into the crowd, aiming directly at the person who had fanned the flames just now. His right palm was like a knife and instantly cut one of Arod's subordinates in half. The knife was shining brilliantly without any blood on it. Then, Xiao Chen left an afterimage on the spot, avoided the attack of the crowd, and appeared in front of a member of Saran Valley. His left palm lightly slid across, and a head with a frightened face flew away obliquely, bringing a large amount of blood rain. The body fell to the ground with a bang when Xiao Chen left. With a sound of swipe, Xiao Chen broke through the siege and appeared in front of another Natural Alliance member. The Beidou Function light curtain in front of him blocked the dazzling blade light. Xiao Chen rushed past like a bolt of lightning. The man's body was actually divided into 2 halves. Xiao Chen walked through the 2 halves of the body. Blood splashes. In just a short moment, screams rang out from time to time on the top of the snow. Blood had already stained the snow red. The spell attack of the conjurer and the supernatural attack of the spirit man turned into terrifying beams of light, impacting frantically on the snow peak, and the divine brilliance made the snow peak extremely gorgeous. The Function light curtain closely followed Xiao Chen's side, constantly revolving around him, helping him to block the overwhelming energy attack, and most of the offensives of the magicians and spirits in the sky were successfully disintegrated. Xiao Chenji's strength shocked everyone. I thought that everyone could join forces to suppress him, but I didn't expect that some cultivators would die when they came up. The curse masters and spirit men in the sky kept swooping down. The terrible spells were like meteor showers, and the supernatural attacks were like tides. Dazzling lightning, flames, wind blades, and ice spears raged across the sky. However, none of this can stop Xiao Chen. After he reaches the 6th level of transformation, he can completely control the Beidou conferred god, and he no longer relies on luck like he did when he was fighting Lu Mu. The Big Dipper was shining brightly in the sky, and the bright light almost covered Xiao Chen's whole body. After many spells and supernatural powers were absorbed by the conferred godlight curtain, the Big Dipper became brighter and brighter. Finally, it turned out to be like a volcanic eruption. The blazing light rushed into the sky and engulfed the 4 cursors and spirit men who swooped in. This is an astonishing picture. It seems that a raging fire is burning in the sky, but it is definitely not a flame, it is a radiant light. The conferred godlight curtain enveloped the sky above Xiao Chen, smashing several curse masters and spirit men who rushed over in an instant. This made everyone feel how powerful and terrifying Xiao Chen was. However, it is impossible for everyone to back down now. The matter has been forced to this point. The curse masters and spirit men in the sky and the cultivators on the ground all screamed loudly to kill Xiao Chen. Kill, kill. The battle on the top of the snow was extremely fierce, and more than 30 strong men were besieging Xiao Chen. The spectators on the opposite Shifeng were deeply shocked. What realm did Xiao Chen reach? It is really amazing to fight against the heroes with one blow. The light curtain condensed by the 7 energized stars was draped over Xiao Chen's body like a sacred armor, and the light emitted made the sun in the sky eclipsed. With disheveled hair, Xiao Chen charged through the crowd with a divine sword in his hand. The sword energy soared to the sky, surging vertically and horizontally. But Xiao Chen opened and closed, invincible, unstoppable. Where the divine sword passed, blood continued to splash. The light curtain outside him had turned into a blood curtain, blood mist lingered on the snow peak, and the pungent bloody smell moved with the wind. Puff! The divine sword was like a rainbow, and it chopped off a ferocious head, and a bunch of blood spattered on the top of the mountain. Click! The iron sword was ruthless, and slanted its shoulders to cut off the body of a cultivator. The white bone stubble and scarlet blood were particularly glaring and frightening. Kai! The blood-stained sword chopped off half of a cultivator's head, white paste flowed out, and bright blood sprayed, and the dead body fell to the ground, indescribably bloody and tragic. Afterwards, the blazing sword light went up against the sky, and the dazzling beam pierced through the bodies of the 3 famous curse masters and spirit men in an instant, and large clusters of blood sprayed out from the front and rear translucent blood holes, dyeing the sky red. This is an extremely tragic battle. The blood sword shocked the sky and the earth turned pale, the Big Dipper soared into the sky, and the situation changed. Xiao Chen fought on the top of Ju Peak, and after the light curtain of the Big Dipper faded, even his long hair was stained red with blood, the blood-dripping divine sword, wildly dancing hair, sharp eyes, tall and straight figure, all these were deeply imprinted in everyone's hearts, and even after many years passed, this shadow was indelible. Chapter 80 The Contest of the Sixth Heaven. I don't know who was the first to collapse, and fled towards the snow mountain in horror, and then everyone started to flee, and the curse masters and spirits in the sky also rushed away. Xiao Chen was too scary, he looked like a demon, so many people surrounded and killed him, and he actually killed more than a dozen masters alive. He was as cold as Shira who had rushed out of hell, bloody and mad, killing mercilessly. There was a stench above the snow peak, and the blood had completely dyed the snow-white world red. The blood mist lingered on the mountain top, and there were stumps and broken bodies everywhere. It was a terrifying scene of a Shira massacre. Xiao Chen stood leaning on his sword, the conferred godlight curtain had already dimmed, and his whole body was covered in blood, but his whole body was still as compelling as an unsheathed divine sword. There was no sound on the 2 snow peaks, and it was extremely quiet for a while. Xiao Chen's strength and fearfulness made many people deeply frightened. Most of the people came to watch the battle, and the people who had plans before were a little silent now. Some people could confront Xiao Chen, but they had to re-evaluate the consequences after the first battle. Suddenly, at this moment, a gorgeous rain of light swept towards Xiao Chen like falling stars. Even though the powerful fluctuations of spiritual power were far away, many spectators still sensed it. It was an energized blade. This power seemed to be no worse than Xiao Chen's offensive. The divine sword was like a rainbow, shining brightly. Xiao Chen left after images on the snow peak, and the long sword in his hand shot out blazing rays of light, shattering the rain of knives, and he knew by feeling that this was a strong enemy. At present, he has not found any trace of the other party. Suddenly, the divine sword in Xiao Chen's hand seemed to lose its focus, and the rain of swords became denser, but they seemed to be phantoms, not rain of swords condensed by spiritual power. Genius illusionist Kyla. Xiao Chen immediately knew who was coming. Although he knew it was an illusion, Xiao Chen didn't dare to take it lightly, because there might be a real rain of swords hidden in it. At the same time, Yan Qingcheng rushed out of the ice and snow. Qingcheng Qingguo's face was like a dream, and her purple clothes moved with the wind, making her look even more extraordinary and refined on the snow peak. In an instant, the purple brilliance on the top of the snow was dazzling, and Yan Qingcheng flew up in the low sky like a flying elf. Her body was surrounded by purple energy, forming a pair of almost transparent purple light wings behind her, allowing her to walk in the sky for a short time. At this moment she was really out of this world. Yan Qingcheng in the posture of sinking fish and wild goose turned into a purple light in the air, unfolding the legendary immortal magic art, and the purple light swiped out from between the hands, shooting towards Xiao Chen like purple lightning. Yan Qingcheng, who has transformed into the 5th heaven of the mortal realm. This made Xiao Chen's heart tremble. No wonder the other party dared to interact with him for life and death. If it wasn't for his cultivation base breaking through into the sixth heaven, it would be hard to say who would win and who would lose. But at this moment, Yan Qingcheng is not just an opponent, but the genius illusion magician hidden in the illusion seems to have reached the sixth heaven of metamorphosis. The sudden real and sometimes false spiritual power attack made him a little hard to guard against. Moreover, there is a Shaoli Fidao heir who has not shown up in secret. Xiao Chen decided to retreat for the time being, and defeat them one by one in the future. After all, if a genius illusionist of the sixth level really confronts him fiercely, it will be a battle between dragons and tigers. In addition to Yan Qingcheng and Wang Tong who has not yet shown up, Xiao Chen is in a very bad situation. However, at this time Kyla, the genius illusionist, finally started to make a real move. Hundreds of identical blonde youths surrounded Xiao Chen. There is no doubt that those are phantoms, and only one of them is Kylo's real body. Kai Luo's appearance is not considered handsome, but his temperament is very outstanding. The so-called headhorns are talking about this kind of person. One can tell at a glance that he must be a person who will transform into a dragon in the future. The illusion created by Kyla enveloped the entire snow peak, and the attacks of various entities and energies such as sharp swords, long knives, lightning, sky fire, etc., raged on the entire snow peak, as if hundreds of people were performing supernatural powers. The rumble of thunder is deafening, the radiant magic knife cuts through the void, the endless fire burns the sky red, and a large expanse of spiritual light and rain shines like shooting stars. Countless phantoms appeared in this ice and snow world, and the momentum was extremely huge, as if a war was going on, rather than a personal battle, which shocked everyone. Terrifying genius illusionist, Xiao Chen was in big trouble. On this extreme peak, he didn't dare to ignore every wave of attack, because it was really hard to judge whether it was real or illusory. Kyla, the genius illusionist, lives up to his reputation. The terrifying energy is like a torrential river rushing, like 1,000 hectares of blue sea surging, and the top is in a frenzy. Xiao Chen's hair fluttered wildly, his eyes were as bright as stars, his tall and straight body remained motionless on top of the snow, but the divine sword in his hand turned into thousands of shadow trails, and the radiant sword light had condensed into a dense light net, blocking all terrifying attacks. Moreover, the divine conferred light curtain emerged again, covering his body and blocking the endless turbulent energy flow. If you can't see where Kai Luo is in the illusion, you can't end the battle. Xiao Chen's eyes emit two substantive rays of light, searching for Kai Luo's real body in the 1,000 light curtains, and at the same time fighting against Yan Qingcheng, who has light wings and can fly in the air. However, with the constant consumption of vitality, Xiao Chen still couldn't find where Kai Luo was. Xiao Chen's vitality is far greater than that of ordinary people, otherwise he may have died of exhaustion by now after the war, and the endless divine light continued to emanate from his body, not only to support the Beidou-conferred godlike curtain, but also to shatter the numerous seemingly real and illusory spiritual attacks at the first time. Finally, Xiao Chen discovered a flaw, an insignificant flaw. His keen spiritual sense caught the inaudible heartbeat and discovered the location of Kyla's real body. Xiao Chen slashed Yan Qingcheng who was swooping down with his sword, and he turned into a beam of light and rushed forward, aiming at Kai Luo's hiding place. Dozens of thunderbolts slashed at Xiao Chen in an intertwined manner, and even more blazing fires covered the sky and covered the earth, trying to block Xiao Chen's progress, and the terrifying rain of knives came one after another. These are all real spiritual attacks, not illusions. Xiao Chen sneered, and was even more sure that it was Kai Luo's real body. The divine sword in his hand opened and closed, shattering more than a dozen light curtains, shattering endless flames, and the tall figure broke through the barrier like a killing god. But at this moment, Xiao Chen felt the hairs all over his body stand on end, an ominous premonition appeared in his mind, and then he felt a great danger enveloped him. Although he shattered the rain of knives in front of him, there was a little light that was extraordinarily bright, like a comet rushing through the sky, so bright that he couldn't open his eyes, and the long sword in his hand was shattered by the dazzling light. Romantic swordsman, the legendary flying knife.